right, that part's done. This part should be coming in. Hello, everyone. And just a second. Oh, I think it's kind of live, but Facebook. All right, we're live now.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Political Head Trauma.
Yes, where if Head Trauma had a podcast, it'd sound like this.
Hey,
Greatest.
remind me again where that saying came from.
It came from Brian Schott. My deepest condolences to the man.
Shoot.
He got himself let go, if you will.
How do you get fired from
From
a terrible rag like the Tribune?
Well, so he was not fond of them not putting explicit books in schools. So he offered to buy the explicit books to any student who wanted them.
Oh, bless his heart. The ones with pornography inside.
Yes.
Which is that's called a what? What is that called?
Pornography. A crime.
When you give it to a minor, a crime.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's but anyway, so yeah.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Carrie. Thank you for joining the show today. Happy birthday. I think you just had a birthday, Carrie.
But so he got let go, which is, kind of fitting. He still won't let me follow him on X.
Oh my gosh. How do you even sleep at night?
I don't know. I do want to follow him. I've been trying to for years now.
Wow.
Years.
Let me see if he just hates everybody or.
That'd be funny. He doesn't let anyone from Utah follow him or anyone outside of Salt Lake.
Let's see.
Anyway, so there's been the DNC going on the whole time this whole week.
Oh.
I have not caught much of it, just little sorry, doing all this.
I'll tell you guys right now. I tried to watch the DNC so that you guys didn't have to, so we could just talk about it here and give you kind of the updates and everything. But that was hard. That was hard.
Was it?
It was kind of interesting because they were they went through a whole convention without talking policy at all.
This one, they're not. The Democrats aren't running on policy. They're running against Donald Trump.
Right. And they said his name, I think, 128 times.
Really?
And in the convention I attended in Milwaukee, they used Biden's name two times.
Well, yeah.
How do you spell that guy's name?
Brian Schott, I believe. But yeah, so he the things I've caught, it seems like the Democrats are trying to take back patriotism.
At the end of the convention. Yeah. They brought in some flags even at the end of convention.
Yeah, well, it's not just that, but they've got camouflage hats. They're using all the accoutrement that I'm talking fancy because I'm about to drink some Snoop Dogg wine. All the accoutrement that you generally see conservatives use,
you saw conservatives use the entire convention.
Well, conservatives have been using not just in their convention, but they've been.
Oh yeah, always.
One more second. I remember a story come out a year and a half ago or so where it was a newscaster lady that said, when I see a truck with a flag on it.
Yeah, she feels scared.
She feels scared. She thinks that's a racist and things like that. And my thoughts are, you guys, you don't have to feel that way. You guys gave up that. You gave up the feeling good about the flag, feeling good about the other stuff.
It's your flag too.
Yeah.
It's your flag too. One of
and-
those stars represents the state you live in, and both sides died and bled for it. So it's no party's flag. It should be
It's-
something we universally appreciate.
Yeah. But it makes me, my weird mind starts running. I start thinking, like right now, if let's say, just hypothetically, like a false flag, yeah, we've got to show, you've got to actually probably pull it back, but we'll lift it up here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to do free advertising for Snoop Dogg, we might as well
Snoop
do it right.
Dogg, he needs all the advertising he can get, I'll bet. Did you see the cork even has Snoop Dogg on it? Little Snoop Dogg on my cork.
Yeah, so
Anyway, so it makes me wonder if we're going to see a flip when it comes to who signs up for the military, who does things like that. You know, that
we have to. They're getting us into wars.
that interests me. Like if it, let's say, just hypothetically, that there was like a false flag.
Hypothetically?
Yeah, hypothetically. It's all hypothetical.
Right.
Would we see it? Because traditionally it was the Republicans or the conservative side, or the rednecks, the rural people who would sign up for the military and do the majority of that commitment. But
Hey, Norma.
would we see then, would it start changing? Would say the urban population and the Democrat Party start seeing the value in that, and the Republicans withdraw, and then the Democrats pursue those martial skills? And maybe would it be weird if in like 20 years the Democrat Party, because of that switch, became pro-gun? And
no way. And let me say this, because Carrie nailed it with her comment. For them, it's drag. They're performing patriotism. It's nothing but projection. Oprah's comments on us being about fear. We've got students still wearing masks. Let me just say this, folks. These people want to get you in wars, and the Republican Party is focused now on getting us out, keeping us out, focusing on America first. And yes, Republican patriotism has always been a Republican thing. I mean, as far as patriotism goes.
not always.
In the sense, in my lifetime.
In your lifetime,
in my
yes.
lifetime. So the people that sign up for wars, usually they're descendants of soldiers, or they feel this need inside of them to join and represent America. And I don't know how many Democrats are going to want to send their child to Ukraine, to their child to Palestine. I mean, how many Democrats, how many Republicans want to send their children to these places? Very, very few.
Well,
especially the Republican Party right now, who wants to get us out of wars and protect the homeland.
in the rollover into the 19th century, the Republicans was the party of secularists or non-believers.
I'm talking about now.
It was sure, but
comments.
Things change.
Sure.
Things change.
And if guns are owned by Democrats, then more power to you.
I'm just wondering,
Democrats,
are we seeing the beginning of a pendulum switch?
Will you see conservatives stop owning guns? Stop defending their Second Amendment?
Well, I think the question would be, would you see the Democrats start occupying the conservative spaces because of choices they made, and the Republicans fill the gap into the progressive spaces, such as where it all started?
Anything's possible. Mom, you didn't miss the show. We just started it. We're doing our 6-ish showtime because we both have jobs that require us, and we have to do this later.
Do you want to try some?
No, not right now. I'm not a fan of red. But let me tell you, the big news today was RFK Jr. coming out in support of Donald Trump and suspending his campaign. This is great. And as a Republican who disagrees with RFK on his love of climate change, I also know that I respect him highly for his passion regarding the jab during COVID, his passion regarding the Democrat principles, not the Democrat, liberal principles that have left him, and the fact that the Democrat Party pushed him out. He's doing what Bernie Sanders didn't have the gumption or desire to do.
And it's hilarious. Bernie's not even a Democrat.
No.
He's an independent
But they
communist.
pushed him out. They pushed him out, kind of like they did with RFK Jr. And I hope Trump finds a place for him in his cabinet if he wins, he wins. And I would almost put him over the CIA.
That's what I was going to say. How wild would it be if they put him over the CIA and he dug in to find out?
Oh, come on, people.
Is there any
connections? He has a
connections?
vested interest in that. And I would love to see somebody who has a vested interest and who has seen it for himself, and who actually, I think the assassination attempt on Donald Trump is probably one of the things that made RFK go, wait a minute. This should have never happened to my father. It should have never happened to my uncle. And it's happening to a person, a ex-president and a candidate. RFK Jr.'s dad was a candidate. His uncle was the president. And the CIA and the FBI locked that down quickly, and we're watching in real time information
allegedly
dripping out. No, they locked it down quickly.
Oh, well, they did lock it down. That's where the word
information drip, and conspiracy theory words.
That's where
all
it comes
came
from.
out.
My favorite part is Alan Dulles, the guy who got fired from the CIA by JFK, got put on the investigation.
Mom says that Trump has said he wants to invite all the soldiers back and would give them pay over those let go for refusing the COVID vaccine.
That's an interesting thought. You know, the Navy invited back some, I don't know, something like 13,000 sailors who said no. And I think it was 2 or 3 said, okay, we'll come back.
Right. Because they were serving under a commander-in-chief
and
that instilled mandates in them and took their livelihood and their patriotism away from them because they refused something that
I also
affect
wonder,
their whole lives.
I wonder, you'll probably see a number come back because of Trump, but how many of them might say, do I want to invest any more time in a job, a career that can be stripped from me so vainly?
Yeah, based on who's elected.
That's a question. I don't know. That all remains to be seen. But we'll go through all these comments that rolled in real quick. Carrie says,
you guys are on top of this today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
Comments.
for tuning in and for participating already. I'm so excited to hear from all of you.
She says, thank you. You got to look up blankets. Flat out pedo takes small child into a bathroom. Is that a book? And they were putting that in the school. See that. Look, I'm all for in public libraries having any book in there. All for it. But I think
they should be rated.
Well, rate them or not, but I'm all for public libraries because schools are something different. One, schools are not voluntary. You have to, be a part of that education system. And also you're kind of turning your trust over to adults, and you expect them to at least uphold your values while your child's there.
Public libraries are funded by your taxpayer dollars.
Sure.
And I don't want abortions paid for by my taxpayer dollars, just like I don't want my child's mind disrupted by taxpayer dollars in a school, in a library. But if they rated the books, gave them a rating to PG, G, rated R, whatever. I mean, if the local teenager down at the movie theater can ask a child for ID they think is under 17 to say rated R movie, why can't a public library do that?
Well, I think under 18, you have to get your parents' permission to have a library card. So that's the crossing point.
Right.
I
but-
want libraries to be, I am a free speech absolutist. I am an absolutist.
And I'm not saying banning books from public libraries.
But school is not voluntary.
No,
And that's where I think it crosses a line.
but neither are taxes.
No, taxes are not voluntary.
And that's how you get public libraries. It's through taxes.
Sure.
And in a public library, these books
But people
can
who
be put in the children's section so that a child picks it up and is
let me ask you a
looking
question.
at these books when there should be a rating
I'm
on
gonna
them where they
flip it on
belong
ya.
in certain
Are you
sections of
ready?
the
Are
library.
you ready to drink it in?
I'm not even drinking.
No, are you ready to drink in what I'm flipping on you? Do you think the Bible should be in the library?
I think all religious books should be in the library,
All right.
but I think there should be a rating.
What would you rate the Bible?
I think the Bible should be probably PG-13 at
Okay.
least. And the reason I say that is because it's a lot for people who are not believers in the faith and what the Bible teaches. I think there's a lot of violence. There's,
Yeah, that whole
There's-
Samson story's in there.
I mean, you guys, I'm an absolutist too. I love free speech, but our kids can't get a tattoo without your parents' permission.
Sure, they can't get
see
a library
rated R
card.
movie, and they can't go to a PG-13 movie. They're not supposed to be able to without some checks and balances. And that's because as a society, we want to protect our kids in any way possible.
All
and
right.
on a public library, there are sections in the library, as you know, and I've been there many times, and there's the children's section. That same section, because they've made a book that looks like a children's book, and it's an animated book, and it's being read by drag queens all over the country. They might slip it in there, not realizing as a parent, my kid just picked up a book that has animated body parts on it in sex positions that I don't need them to know about.
Would the child, let me ask you, would the child be at the library without you?
Potentially,
In the
yes.
children's section.
But possibly, yes.
So children's section is probably
I mean,
12
parents-
and younger.
No, I would say that it's designed for even younger than 12.
That's what I
but
said.
when
12
you
and
go to-
younger. You
When
just
I go to the
repeated what I
library
said.
with my kids,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would even say 6 and younger.
Sure.
Because
But
they've got little toys and all that stuff.
yeah, the children's section is designed for 12 and younger. It's designed for that. And so that 12 and younger probably wouldn't be there without a parent.
I've dropped off my 12-year-old at the library
Have you?
and
Mm-hmm.
my 10-year-old.
Maybe at the Tooele library over the last year I would. Prior to that, I would not.
Now, the only thing is I was doing an event not far away, but I wasn't inside the library with them. And then recently, we were doing interviews for teenagers for Patriot Camp, and the library let us use their interview room for that. And some parents just dropped their kid off to come in and wait for their interview. And they were 13 and older. But again, if there's a section that's by rating, and I'm still angry that during one of our delegate meetings, one of our residents here in the county suggested putting something as simple as a rating on the book like you would any movie. And it was shot down by a candidate. It was shot down. And yet we weren't asking to ban the book, sell the book.
What
anywhere, give
candidate
to
shut it
libraries.
down?
I
And did
don't
they give a
wanna-
reason why?
No. They
Could it-
said it wasn't a good idea.
Could it?
They wanted it banned altogether.
Okay, they wanted banned altogether. That is the incorrect answer. Look, if you're against freedom of speech, I would never vote for you. Not that I vote anyway. Second of all, let me explore this a little more. As a true fiscal conservative, how do you implement that?
I think the same way you implement, you have the same type of board for movies.
Is that government funded or was that privately funded?
I think for movies, it's an association that is
private.
brought together. Yeah. Now,
It was private and it was not a government mandate that came down that did that.
no,
It
it was
was
more of the studios who did it.
Completely private.
And
So
I'm fine with that. Guys, look, make your book.
would I want the
Make it as
government?
much as you want. Sell it on Amazon.
No,
But-
we're exploring deeper things. You keep diving off this. Would I want the government to force a mandate like that?
I'm not
to-
asking that. I'm asking
You're saying to,
publishers to do it, private companies to do it.
so you want to force airbags?
What?
You want to force airbags? That was a big argument in the 80s was, what was that guy that always ran for president? Started with an N. He wanted to force airbags. He wanted the government to mandate airbags on automobiles.
Well,
And
airbags became the norm
They
in
did,
automobiles
but-
because customers started to seek out
Yes.
those automobiles. The free market said,
yes,
I want an airbag. And now I own a
yes,
vehicle that has like 12 of them inside, and I'm happy
Yes.
for it. It saved lives.
yes. But what you're speaking about is you want the government to mandate this control,
No, I don't.
which means I have to pay for it.
No, I want it done at the level when the book is written. Whoever publishes it, there's a committee privately among publishers that says, let's give it a rating for age reading. That's it.
That'd be great. What do we do until then? Do we just not let any books in libraries?
It's up to the library.
That's what I've been saying.
But it's other.
No, your
we don't
argument-
even have a choice in schools right now.
My
They're dropping
argument.
these books off in schools.
Yes, they do. My argument was, I don't want explicit books in school libraries. And your argument was you don't want them in any libraries, or you want them to
No,
be,
I want, if they're in libraries, I just want them rated. That's it.
you want them rated. So until that's done, do we put an embargo on new books coming into the library?
I think we actually should just set standards that are required, that things are rated. That's it. Our legislator could make a Utah law that
Mhm.
says any industry that is selling books to children
Mhm.
has to have a rating on their
And
book.
this law would be free, no cost.
Yeah, what cost would it cost the state?
Well, you've got a cost to enforce the law.
Well, the thing is, it's going to get, there's kids that go see PG-13 movies all the time, and there's no
Sure.
penalty other than they could lose their opportunity to go back. Yeah. if
No,
it-
the enforcement's not to the consumer. The enforcement's to the producer. So let's say a movie company,
but if
Universal,
they're not arrested. They're
fined, they're drugged through court. There is a law enforcement mechanism that has to be funded to deal with it.
okay. O'Malley, when I refer to Republicans wanting to get us out of war during convention, the one thing that was talked about was getting us out of foreign wars and getting us out of being the world's, what is it called?
World Police.
The world police, and getting us out of Ukraine. Stop funding wars in other countries, especially other countries that, and stop paying so much for countries that we're protecting with these agreements. Now,
I kind of agree with O'Malley on this. You have the populist Republicans and the ultra left Democrats both want us to quit interceding to different degrees in foreign wars. Some of the ultra left like support in Ukraine, but are anti-support in Israel, and the Republicans have a vice versa thing. But then you've got the extremes that want us out of everything.
Well,
and it's
Trump
a
wants
spectrum.
us out of it.
Yeah. Trump
Even Israel. I mean, he said,
has
let's
a big,
stop sending American dollars overseas when we have problems at home.
yeah, Trump is a big populist.
Is it a nationalist?
Well, I guess you could call him a nationalist, but
I mean,
he's a
what-
populist.
Okay. So
Populist
that's what I mean.
is when you carry an opinion that doesn't go along with the traditional political values of the politically motivated. It's where you go along with the values of majority or certain amounts of the population.
Carrie says add a label sticker just like they do for reading labels.
That'd be fine. I
They're
just wonder.
that the American Library Association is internationally rewriting our classics. Anna Green Gables, Little Women, Now They're Gay. Just a sticker or a queer section so people know what they're reading. Even that, let's have a LGBTQ section in every library.
I just wonder,
Boom.
How do you pay for that? Do you pay the librarian extra to review every book that comes in? Does this have a lesbian theme in it? Then I set it up. You've got to.
I think a lot of books
everything has a
say
cost.
they do.
Everything has a cost.
Right, but you cannot put a price on your children's innocence.
No, you cannot. And you know how you protect that?
Don't take them to public libraries.
You protect that. When the child says, "Hey, I want to check out this book," you say, "Let me have a look at it."
Right.
And then you're the filter. Just like when your child says, "Hey, I want to go see this movie," and you say, "Give me a second. Yes or no?"
But have you ever taken your child to the library when he was little?
Yes, I have.
And they get to play and get and look at books.
There wasn't much playing. It was the Grantsville Library back in the day, and it was just a hallway.
Right now, and I would never take my kids to the Salt Lake Library and drop them off.
No,
ever.
no.
But
nor the Tooele Library 2 years ago.
Yeah, the library in Tooele has a really cute area for kids.
Yes.
Where parents can sit and read a book while their kid is playing or picking up books. I think that Carrie's idea is brilliant because that requires no cost. Most books will tell you if it's an LGBT friendly book anyway, it'll say it right on the book. And that I've seen the books that are on the list, they usually will mention that. And all you got to do is have a section in the library that is LGBT friendly and make sure that it's got everything that a kid will feel comfortable going in and looking at books. But parents who don't agree with a certain book or anything, I mean, that's if the child is with you at the library. Now that, again, you should probably be with your child.
I think a better law would be no unaccompanied minors in public libraries.
And there you go.
And that's simple.
But how do you enforce that?
How do you enforce that?
Like
the librarian, you have to show a card to go in. Yeah. The librarian says, "Oh, you're a minor. Where's your parent?"
What do you deem a minor? Under 18?
Sure. We can go whatever age you want.
So I have to go with my 17-year-old.
Sure. Or so you can go online, and you can sign a pre-waiver on the website.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, I'd like your comments on this because I think the last thing I want to do is ban books, and the last thing I want to do is to infringe on the free market. I just think that there's got to be a way that we know if what the child is reading involves sex. I don't care what kind of sex. I don't care if it's heterosexual or homosexual.
Sure, and I think it's apparent.
Any of that, and I agree.
Mick Week says, "What you sipping on?"
All right, do your commercial.
I got me some Snoop Dogg. It's called Cali Red by 19 Crimes. Snoop Dogg wine has Snoop Dogg on the cover.
Yeah, but can I taste it?
Snoop Dogg on the cork. It's actually not half bad. I'm impressed with Snoop Dogg wine.
Oh, for shizzle.
For shizzle?
That's like a sweet red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite good.
It's not a Merlot.
I like
Would
a little more.
It over there?
Oh, you want to put it on my side?
I don't want to dump it on here.
I like a little more tannins in my wine. I like a dry wine, but okay.
Yeah, okay, Lindsey Graham, that's fair. And a lot of other Republicans now, we're being very, very loose with that R in DC. We all know that. That is the swamp of DC. And I mean, even Nikki Haley and even, Mitch McConnell, all these folks, because war is good money. And the Republicans used to be great at that. George Bush, his father, Republicans used to love war. That's what I think a lot of conservatives are saying. Yeah, no, we don't have the money to be involved in wars. Wars are killing our kids, and we're not winning. We're not winning them.
There was always one Republican who didn't.
Please keep interrupting me because I love that.
But when you interrupt me, it's
I
groovy.
love that too.
Hey, Dr. Ron Paul always said no.
Right, because we go in, we involve a war, we engage, we destroy, because that's what our soldiers do, because that's what they're trained to do, because we have the best military in the world. But then we also go in and rebuild. How great is that? How great is that on the American taxpayer? And I think of Vietnam, I think of the leaving Afghanistan the way we did after 2 decades of war, and yet for what? So we can rebuild it? You think that Ukraine's going to rebuild itself when all this is over? And you did see, though, they're starting to take some of Russia's property. So maybe that $200+ billion is getting them somewhere besides rich.
Carrie has a great idea. Parents are already doing it, and parents would volunteer, and that'd be great. Though it's hard to ask someone else's parents to watch your kids with your values. That's a hard part I have with schools. That's why I think schools, if you're going to have a public school, it has to be a rather bland standard, like, nothing too exciting.
Well, what we learned from Matt Hymas was that a lot of these school books that got into schools were dropped off just like any other book in a box, just put into the library, put on shelves. And it wasn't until some of them made it home that parents even knew they existed, or even principals knew they were in there.
Maybe even sometimes librarians, because they just grab them, put them on a shelf, and it might have like an age at the bottom. It does feel like there's an insidious nature to the publishing houses in some publishing houses.
Look at Carrie's comment. It's hard to look, friends. They intentionally make them innocuous looking, and that is true. They are sexual books that are done in an animated form, like any other book, like Green Eggs and Ham. Actually, no, they're even more, beautiful. Like, what's the Christmas movie that is so popular? Tom Hanks plays like all the roles.
The Train thing?
Yeah. What's that show called?
The Christmas Train? The Polar Express.
Polar Express.
Look at that.
That book was a gorgeous book, and it won many awards and had the little.
Did it have bad stuff in it?
No. Okay. But these new books coming out look like that.
Yeah, there's a weird motivation. You know what? If someone came and told me it's worshiping of Moloch, I'd believe them. I'd believe them 100%.
My hubby just said, more research needed on the subject. There is a way to solve the issue. And that's true. Like
the way to solve it without forcing more taxes on everyone around you is parent.
Amen.
That's it.
That is the bottom line.
That's the answer to every problem. If you got problems with schools and kids being dirtbags in schools, parent. That's it.
And guys, that's the answer to most of the issues we're facing today. Unfortunately,
it really is.
We have gotten ourselves in a community where both parents usually are working.
It's tough.
And it's hard to really have that one-on-one with your kids. It's hard to know what they're reading, what they're learning at school. I mean, I'm home with my children after school, and it's like pulling teeth to find out what they're learning in school.
Do you think that's
because they don't talk about it? So it's tough.
Do you think that might be because school kind of shuts a brain off because it's a factory learning, so they kind of?
Well, no, I think it's like my husband who works for a 12-hour day and gets home, and the last thing he wants to do is tell me all about his day. It's like they get done with school and they don't really want to rehash it. And it's not till we get on a subject matter of interest that they'll, in history today, I learned this, or, hey, Mom, I figured out how to solve that problem I was worried about in math. And I figured it out finally. And I'm like, thank goodness, because I could have never figured it out. And, it's those conversations, they happen very just naturally, organically. And yet the books that our kids read, that are books we buy them. And usually my husband and I like to see a movie before we take our kids to see a rated R movie.
It's a good idea.
But they're getting old enough and they've seen enough where I feel pretty good about certain movies. I'm fine with them watching with us at the same time. So it's, oh, I didn't see that. Is that the headliner? Is that our cover?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, wow. We went off the rails real fast.
Yeah. But no, I believe parents need to parent. If we force more taxes on, I know my Facebook's wild. If we force more taxes on people, we're just making ourselves broke.
What if we were just smarter with where that tax money goes? What if we, I don't know, stopped relying on bureaucrats and started looking at maybe volunteers, like you said, parents volunteering, and maybe we cut costs, because a lot of our tax dollars are going and being wasted because it's just money. It's just a number on a page to some people.
I think the volunteering is, when reliable, is an outstanding idea. I think the ultimate idea is parents parent.
Right.
That's everything.
And
that's how you produce a healthy society.
O'Malley said, we had plenty of books at home. I never took my son to the public library. I read him the classics, which is great.
Yeah.
I wish more parents had that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sad to say that a lot of parents, I mean, yes, you should read your kid every night. And the school that my kids go to, they require your kid reads 20 minutes at least every night to you. And I love it because it gives us that one-on-one time. You get to hear how your kid's doing in the reading department, but then they can read anything they want. So why not? Why not pull out the classics and let them read, every night for 20 minutes? And sometimes they go longer because they're interested. But parents that do have the luxury of being highly engaged with their kids, I call it a luxury now because this economy has required parents to work 2 jobs. And both parents and kids are getting lost because of this economy and COVID and all that crap. Mm-hmm. Which was a great opportunity for books that came out to sneak their way into schools quite easily.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's been seriously, you can't convince me they're not worshiping Moloch. There's a push from the hard left to corrupt the youth, to corrupt the society. And I'm wondering, I ask myself, what is their goal in the end? And is it
to have sheeple?
Is it just a perversion? Both sides want sheeple.
There is a part of it that's perversion.
Is it just a perversion? Is it a desire to cause so much chaos that it collapses and then you can rebuild it in what you want?
They want to destroy the family unit.
Well, of course.
And that's the first step, because once the family unit is destroyed, then morals, principles can be messed with.
Is it the Marxist idea under that then? Or is it, or is it simply that for the past 15, 20 years, our schools, our education schools have put out teachers with this idea, and those teachers have been, and the teachers they're victims as well of this, and they've been putting this message out. Now, not all teachers, but a number of them, 15, 20%. And I'm not just trying to knock teachers, but
no, you're right. It's not their fault. They're learning in college.
Yeah.
To even pass or graduate or be accepted, they had to follow these type of principles that were more Marxist, I think.
Yeah. And so then the teachers start teaching to your child young. We saw during instances of when they were Zoom schooling that they would, don't let your parents hear this. Don't let your parents see that. I mean, it was a double-edged sword. The teachers unions and the teachers wanted to stay home and get that easy money. But then we saw behind, or some parents, I mean, my kid's an adult, but they saw behind the curtains, and it caused a lot of parents to pull their kids out of school and test the homeschool, even if it was just for a year. Like my sister, she asked for the, I guess, syllabus or whatever of the sex ed when my niece came home with the sign-up sheet, and they said it's not available to you. So she said no.
Yeah, we just got that same thing with our daughter. And the difference is, though, at my school, I could go in and work in that classroom, volunteer time in that classroom during that, if I didn't embarrass her terribly, to have her mother in there when they're talking about it. But also, I figure, they're pretty upfront with that syllabus at my kids' school.
Yeah, and that might be the big difference where Grantsville said, well, we don't have it available to you, or you can't see it.
It should be online because it is a public school curriculum.
They told her no.
But I'll tell you this.
Of course, this was 2 years ago.
I recall when sex ed was being discussed in schools and whether we should keep it or not. And we had a representative out here, and it came out that, well, who provides the curriculum for sex ed? None other than Planned Parenthood.
I wondered when that started. Do you think Planned Parenthood, like when we went through sex ed? Because I remember when I was in junior high, about 7th grade, they kicked it off, or 8th grade, but they had a boys sex ed in one classroom.
Oh, no, it is 7th.
And the girls sex ed in another. For the first one, they had us segregated, which I think is an outstanding idea.
Are you talking about the maturity meeting?
No,
that happens in 5th grade where they separate the two.
That stuff was long. Maturation was long after I was out. They just had sex ed.
Sex ed was...
and they had it like every 2 years in your health class after that. But the first one...
We had it in co-ed in mine.
Yeah, it was co-ed. But the first one in Grantsville, I grew up in hillbilly town where we slaughtered animals for a class. But the first one was separated, I think, in like 7th grade. And then after that, we were together, and it was kind of a weird giggle fest because we were kids.
Can you imagine being the teacher in that class? It's usually the coach too.
I know.
It's usually the gym coach or
like
something.
Really, they probably get it because the rest of their school year is easy. Hand the kid a ball. Don't let them beat each other up. Right?
I don't know.
So they give them that crap class. Pour me a little more Snoop Dogg.
We should zoom closer. I feel like we're far away.
Do you?
So Carrie says, right, have you heard about Mamala Harris? They're painting her out as a sacred mother. More scary, Uncle Stalin, Mao painted as a father, Big Daddy Obama, making families less important. I mean, they've already done 32 abortions as of yesterday at the convention.
And they've got
32.
They've got
on the mobile Planned Parenthood van.
The vasectomy one. That vasectomies are a big deal. And you can go into somebody's RV and get nipped. Oh.
Can you guys what world are we living in that you go to a convention and get your abortion? The whole thing was about
they're worshiping Moloch.
And it's all about fear about, this is my favorite. Donald Trump is going to ruin democracy. And I'm saying in my head, first of all, we're not a democracy. Second of all, this is coming from a party who literally stole democracy from every Democrat by putting in Kamala Harris. They put her in. You didn't even vote for her. Democrats didn't even get to choose her. She was never on any ballot for the primary. They voted for Biden on the primary. He had the reins, and then they decide to kick him out, but they don't Article 25 him, even though he couldn't stand trial because of his mental state in another issue. But they don't Article 25 him. They just kick him out, and here's your new Democratic choice for, and I'm thinking, what? How many times can one, you say democracy in a convention, and two, where's the democracy in this party? If we're going to talk democracy, oh, you're going to love this.
What'd you get there? Is that a new toy?
Yeah, my son gave me this. He got it at a part of. I don't
Foley
know.
thing. Is it a fan? Oh, dude,
Ladies,
that thing
ladies out
kicks some
there?
breeze out too. I'm feeling
Yeah.
it over here.
Any ladies out there who understand, this has been saving me from these flashes of heat I get. I go from 98.6 to like 105 within 3 seconds, and there's no controlling it, and I'm a mess. And all of a sudden, I've got a stuffy nose that came out of nowhere. That's weird.
Carrie says nihilism to end history. That could be, or are they? Do they want to end current history and start their utopia new? I don't know. I have some Marxist friends and well-meaning people. They just, yeah.
They want to be unburdened by what has been.
The divided are easier to conquer, Norma says. Well,
It's absolutely true.
here's the thing is they believe that these things are possible, that if you take away the ability for capitalism to build growth, that growth will still happen. Like new businesses will appear. If you take away the ability for someone to take the risk, that new businesses and industries will appear, and it won't. And my argument is, right now, in our current nation situation, whatever, a group of people can get together and say, we're workers, we want to unite, and we want to build like, let's say at my business right now, I could get together with everyone I work with and say, if we all pool our money, we could build a competitor for our current business, and we could have the best wages and the best whatever. We could do that. The problem is everyone at my work does not want to take that risk.
No, they couldn't afford
They
to.
don't. Even if they could, I mean, we could. You could probably get 100 people together, and they could all.
There's probably so much red tape now.
Yeah, and
Because
so,
billionaires love to pull the ladder up behind
they do.
them.
They do.
And then endorse Democratic candidates and then tell you how terrible billionaires are. I don't understand this, you guys. It was a big circle. Billionaires are horrible, and this and this and this, and yet we want to make a country where your child can be anything, but don't be an evil billionaire.
How much?
Because that's just not, they're the worst. And then there's a picture where they're standing there with billionaires. They're big donors.
Oh, Walmart jumps in favor of every new regulation that gets put on the retail stores because they can afford to deal with them.
Big Pharma actually buys companies like Roundup. A company, Roundup, I think it's Mercer that owns Roundup.
It's Monsanto. Mercer owns Monsanto. Monsanto invented Roundup.
Right. And Roundup has been proven to cause cancer.
They also invented Agent Orange.
So your big pharma companies are buying the people that actually cause cancer. Why would they do that? What would be the logic behind that? Here's why. Because they're going to be the ones to sell that medication to treat, not cure, to treat cancer. And the same people that are pushing out our farmers and telling us that we need to buy our meat overseas and all of that. Do you know that half the food in our country you can't get in Europe, and we're buying it from Europe? They wouldn't sell it to their own people because there's poison in it, or because it has no health value, or because it's got too much sugar.
Oh, tell me Fruit Loops isn't just magical.
But that's it. It's okay to sell to America, and they'll sell it.
Sugar and preservatives, some MSG.
And they're creating lifetime patients.
Yeah.
For the medical industry. And Absolutely. That's a conflict of interest, in my opinion. I think it's absolutely crazy that Americans aren't more awake in that regard, that we're slow. You know how many cases of autism and diabetes and all these young illnesses in our kids. What are we feeding them? And then if you did give your kid a perfect vegetable diet, what are they dropping out of the sky? What are they doing to treat the vegetables? What's in the soil growing these vegetables?
We have to buy our vegetables from Mexico, folks.
Avocado from Mexico. But you see what I mean? It's like our country, we are so back asswards, and there's a lot of illnesses that can be cured with food.
We are an oligarchy, 100%. O'Malley May says Roundup causes a specific cancer, and Mercer has that specific medicine for that cancer. And Russell says, preach it, girl. Now,
Thanks,
Carrie
Russell.
says, back to the
Absolutely, Norma. Pet food in China. And here's what I
gotta
learned.
be careful of that.
My husband and I quit purchasing dog food from China, and even stuff like Iams and Eukanuba and all the nice stuff. I mean, our dog was eating better than us some nights, but what we found out is in China, they store these foods for so long, and the corn and the crap that they put in these dog foods, that literal mold grows.
Ferments.
Yeah. And it makes it poison. And what's sad is a lot of the stuff that comes out of China, out from Europe, from China, wherever we're buying our food, folks, they're selling it to us, but they're not selling it to their own people, especially with a government-run healthcare system, because they don't want their kids sick or addicted to sugar and obese. The obesity rate in the United States for our young kids is so high, and we can't look and go, oh, these parents suck. No, if you don't have money, you can't afford to feed your kids fresh fruits and vegetables. And then if you're going for organic, then they tack that on top of it, and you still can't get absolutely unpoisoned food.
That comes at a premium. Carrie says, yes, it's queer theory. Read The Queering of the American Child. Sorry, it just rolled. Queering of the American Child. It will motivate you. It's not about regrowth. It's literally called degrowth. See so you've got the Frankfurt School come over here to Columbia, and that's where they kind of settled and grew. They were running from the Nazis. And coming out of that Frankfurt School is Michel Foucault, who's a Frenchman, but he studied with the Frankfurt School. They were Marxist in Germany, and they came over here when the Nazis took over. And anyway, so Michel Foucault, I don't know if you guys get the chance to study him. I haven't brushed up on this in a while, but like he was trying to propose that they lower in France. He wanted to lower the age of consent to 11 or 12. I mean, it's crazy, and poetic justice. So he's one of those weird guys. He was a homosexual who liked to go down to the park there in San Francisco and troll for teenage boys. And he was one of those guys that said AIDS is fake. It doesn't exist. It's fake. And guess what he died from? Poetic justice.
Well,
you can't worship Moloch and make it out okay. You just cannot.
So for the thing that gets me is that enough is enough, and we have to protect children. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect the most innocent around us, right? We have to teach them, to learn how to make an argument, to consider a theory, to have the facts. Our government's great at hiding facts. We've got crony capitalism in this country, and it is perverting the entire idea of a free market, because what we think of a free market is not crony capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so tired of, I have health issues, right? I'm so tired of worrying about what it is and not knowing and all of that. And then medicine after medicine to treat symptoms, but not cures. And then I'm looking at how they want to give kids, hormone treatment starting at 11 or before they're prepubescent, and makes them a lifetime member of the big pharma. And yet you could live your life great. You could live your life healthy. My husband's a health nut. But where is it coming from? Where are these healthy things coming from? And what are the standards there? Norma said blood pressure medications recalled 3 times, made in China. In the pandemic, how many medications were backordered because they were coming from China, folks? Why are we not producing our own medicine? Why are we not producing our own food? And then the farmers who are trying to grow our own food here and our own meats and everything else are getting so red taped so that by OSHA and all this other crap to tie their hands, where it's almost impossible for them to run their free market business. So shop local, and if you can afford it. And that's the other thing. Who can afford to feed their children foods without sugars, that aren't processed in some way, that aren't high in sodium, that aren't terrible? It's almost like a luxury right now to have your kid eat an apple. By the way, peaches are $2 each.
How about a gallon of milk costing, what is it, like $4 something now?
And if you buy organic, it's even more than that. If you don't want hormones in it and crap.
Norma says the good old boys syndrome. I wonder if it's all. I'm a firm believer in the Pareto distribution, and also, if you have money, it's easier to make money.
It's true, and people who make a lot of money, usually it's not because it's not. I mean, you can take 2 people and give them the same amount of money, and it just depends on their mindset. Like we talked about with Will Roosh, some will be rich, and they will do something with that money to make it grow, make it build. Their lifestyle is different.
It could be frugalism or the willingness to take a chance.
Yep, or the willingness to
or dumb
save
luck
and avoid getting the things they want. I think it's, what's his name? The money guy always says, live, you're going to have to live like no one else so that eventually you can live like no one else. And
what's his name?
It's okay. We don't have a lot of time, but you guys know who I'm talking about, I think. But the whole point of that is you may have to go without for a while, but there is a mindset to saving and being frugal on the things you need, fixing things that are broken rather than buying brand new, while it makes sense. But stretching your money out, spending your money on specific things, people who are going to make money will always have that mindset. And the people that don't have the education or the tools financially, or have never been taught, financial strategy or things like that, they will spend it. Look at how many bankrupt lottery winners there are. I mean, it's pretty astounding.
It's like 95% end up worse off.
Yeah.
After than before.
It's amazing to me.
Norma says, so the government can tax at a higher rate. Yes, they do. They tax investors at it's something crazy, like a third of what they tax workers. And I don't agree with taxes at all, but it is crazy how they've separated that so that their class, their political, wealthy class, benefits along with them. O'Malley May says, I really like Costco rotisserie chickens. I get about 2.5 pounds of meat off each bird and make all kinds of stuff and use the bones for chicken broth.
That's a very affordable way to eat. I mean, and she makes her own laundry soap too.
Oh, she makes more than that. She shows up with the whole apothecary hippie oil works every time. She shows up all the time with that.
The thing is, we don't know what We don't know. That's the problem. And it's just become this huge, whatever's, my husband would always talk about, what are all these things in the sky? You know, what are they called?
The, what do you call them?
What is it? It looks like crop dusting. What is it called?
Dang it. You lost me.
Well, I used to go, gosh, this is probably from the Jets.
Her homemade bug spray.
And here's the problem, folks. I thought he was crazy. And then I started to look into it and read it. And it's been happening for years. And they're seeding the clouds. And they're doing all this to promote, rain or whatever it is. What's in the chemicals? Because those chemicals are dropping from the sky and landing in the soil. The soil that your garden is you're growing your own food. You're doing everything right. And then all of a sudden, why am I getting sick? We're eating fresh vegetables. We're eating fresh foods. It's a big circle. And it's because places like, Big Pharma owns our government.
They were, Operation Popeye, they were cloud seeding with it's
called something else though.
Yeah. They were doing that in 72. That's before we were born. Yeah, it's out there. It's open. They were making it monsoon more to wash out.
Why? That same stuff that's dropping into our soil, that's affecting that hurts rich people too. It hurts everyone. Yeah, it goes into our water supply. Norma's right. Into our water supply, into our soil, all of that. I mean, why is Europe not buying American products? I mean, when you go to Europe and you go to a grocery store and you go to the cereal aisle, it's probably the size of this wall behind me. The cereal options.
Well,
they come here and look at our cereal aisle and their eyes go this big and they're like, holy crap, because they don't allow these dyes and these sugars and corn syrup. And yet in America, it's fine. And Europeans have learned, hey, we can make these products. Can't sell them here, but we can sell them to America and we'll make tons of money.
Or is it American businesses making it over there and shipping it here? Not that Europe makes anything anymore. They've given up on industry. Donald
Trump did the tax cuts for everyone. They talked about that in the convention too, about how these fat cats, these were for fat cats. Only the rich benefited off of his tax cuts. That's absolutely baloney. Everybody got a tax cut. And they are talking this narrative that they've been doing. And you notice they don't care if they've been corrected. The Joe Biden story about there were good people on both sides argument with Trump, even though, I mean, geez.
When he repeated it again.
Yes. But then you know what he did? He said the protesters outside his convention, there were good people on both sides. He did the same thing that he accused Trump of. And I'm sure there are good people on both sides. There are good people all throughout this country who all disagree and agree, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. We're all being fed a bunch of BS by the media, and the narrative is being written, and then and they made a whole campaign about calling Trump and Vance weird. Did you see that? Every newspaper people are saying they're weird. Well, I'm sorry. JD Vance grew up dirt poor, built his way up, goes to Yale, goes into the service, and he serves his country. And then he ends up being in the government. He's weird. Well, what's weird about him? What's weird? And the reason they did it is because they will call you exactly what they are. They'll accuse you of doing what they are already doing.
And that they didn't have an argument against him. That hillbillyology, I guess, is super popular. I have not seen it or read it or any of that.
It's a great show.
I've heard it is.
I think I told you to watch it.
Yeah.
I just barely watched it after convention.
I've been working. Norma says, respect each other, question the government. I love that.
Absolutely.
And you can be a good person and dumb also. I mean, Marxists out there, you've got a fault in your logic. Wasn't it Trump though that made it so I couldn't get any credit for my house payment? I remember that being the case and being really annoyed about that.
I
Could
don't know what
be.
you mean. What about credit?
Couldn't get
A
credit
tax
for.
credit?
Yeah, I don't know.
You see, a lot of companies with that tax cut, I know personally, because it happened to us, bonused, gave out bonuses, large bonuses to their long-term employees. They hired more employees. They paid more. And I don't know, our house loan, I think we got a 2.3% interest rate. You think your kids can buy a house right now with what it is? And then they turn around and tell you, oh, we've dropped the interest rate. What did they drop it to? Is it 6 now? 6.6 or something?
Well, a pal just came out today and said that he's going to do a rate cut, but the prices that are there are already there. And O'Malley May, you're probably right. He probably did that because taxes are evil. They're theft. They are when they're Republican taxes. They are when they're Democrat taxes. They are across the board. They were promised to us in 1921. It was going to be 2% on the 1%. How's that going? Give it 20 years. Right now, Kamala Harris is saying she wants to have price controls. That's the death knell of every nation.
That's communism right there.
It's the death knell, regardless of what side it comes from. That's the thing that that destroyed Venezuela was when they put in price controls.
Can I just add something though? Mm-hmm. You heard all her promises, right?
Yeah.
Are we forgetting that she is serving currently and has been with the president for the last 3.5 years? Are we forgetting all these promises she's going to do day one?
I'm drinking
this wine. Why don't you do it right Kamala now? Why don't you do it right now? Oh, no. Oh, Biden has the best president and all his policies are great and we're so great for this country. But when I get in office, I'm going to make sure they don't gouge you in stores. Oh, how are you going to do that? Are you going to drop the price of oil?
Just quit having stores. That's just what happens.
Government-run stores.
Well, that sounds great.
Almost like government-run liquor stores, right?
That sounds great.
Yeah, doesn't that work so well?
Where I go to buy my food from the DMV.
It's
and
that's
shout
what
out,
it is.
Tooele has the best DMV in the whole United States.
Don't tell anyone that.
Shh. Salt Lake City's DMV is the best in the whole United States. You will not wait for hours and hours and be treated rudely. Anyways, yeah, I'm drinking this for Kamala. She's probably sharing one with me right now.
Our child tax credit went up, and I got more money from my job with the tax cuts. But what it also did is it brought in a lot of businesses that had left the country. Dropping the corporate tax rate, that was the best thing anyone could ever do. There should be a 0% corporate tax rate, in my opinion.
Oh, corporate taxes is
over
stupid.
And over. That is the worst because it's another tax that gets thrown on to you. So, I mean, if I was president, that's the first thing I do. 0% corporate tax rate. You know what happens then? Every company in the world is running to this country to do business.
Well, and
to open manufacturing, to open medicine manufacturing.
They're stupid. Corporate taxes are stupid.
They are.
Either they pay their employees less or they charge you more. Usually they do both. Yep. And then we wonder why our real wages have stagnated since the 80s. You know, oh, we'll blame it on Reaganomics and all that. No, it's because of corporate taxes.
And because we're not energy independent, here's the thing. Do you think that the egg farmers want to be charging you $5 for a carton of eggs? I mean, no, because people are going to buy less eggs. But in order to get those eggs to Walmart, you got to put them on a truck. And to put them on a truck, that gas costs money. And it costs them double what they were paying in 2019.
Well, it's not just that. It's heating of the everything involved in it, the electricity, everything.
Without energy independence, folks, we are going to have inflation because people don't respect the fact that truckers are the whole thing that keeps this nation running. And gasoline is what's in those trucks. And for your products to get from here to there to there to there, you need energy. However you get it, however you get energy requires water, whether it requires sun, whether it requires wind or fossil fuels. And companies who are trying to stay in business, they can't eat those costs and be like, yeah, well, we'll just sell eggs for the same, even though we're paying triple the price for the shipping of our product. This is just basic economics. And even Obama's economic advisor came out and said, this is insane. This inflation, they tell you they're dropping inflation. Well, thanks for that. But you guys also rose inflation up so high and you're dropping it, acting like you've done us a favor when you're the reason it's high in the first place.
Well, both parties are to blame for inflation.
Sure.
And
But
that's
one party decided to cut regulation on drilling, on fracking, to let us do our own drilling here in the country and to become energy independent, and gave us leverage over the price of gas in Saudi Arabia and the price of gas wherever else. Hell, we were able to sell it to other countries.
Yeah, we're still a net exporter right now, but it's not as much as we were. But
And we had reserves.
well, yeah, that we don't have anymore.
Nope.
So, okay, on to the main story. We got a half hour. So we got a meat and potatoes this.
And we did start a little after 6. So
We
a
did.
little after 8 will end. But
So you met with Governor Cox
yes,
as
Governor Cox
as the
and,
Tooele County Chair of the Republican Party.
and Lieutenant Governor Henderson as well.
Okay, all right. So tell us who scheduled this meeting. Was it Cox? Did he schedule it with all the chairs, or
Nope.
did he pinpoint certain chairs? What was the outline of this?
Well, the outline was pretty incredible. He reached out to people that had disagreed with him, and people that had issue with him and his policies. And so he reached out to myself as well as a member of our SEC, and then some people that I don't believe are in the state party in any official capacity. They're just people, delegates maybe that were angry with him.
How many people were at this get together?
9.
Okay,
Maybe.
so very intimate.
It was very intimate.
Okay.
And he has multiple meetings happening. He's having them all over the place. He's reaching out to people who disagree with him, and he's calling it a grievance meeting.
Was
he
it
wants
people?
to hear your grievances, and he wants to hear what you're angry about, and he wants to address it.
So was it people all from Tooele County
No.
that you were there with? So you were.
I was the only one from Tooele County, but there was a meeting last night.
Well,
that
Chad
had
was.
more.
Chad
He
went to the
one
meeting
last
last night. Okay.
I went Wednesday.
All right. So tell me about what are some of the grievances you brought up with him?
Well, one of the grievances was that. Okay, one of them was we talked about the law the veto that he made regarding the trans kids in sports. I asked him about that veto. I think that was a surprise to a lot of us. Why would he veto that? Kara Birkeland had worked on that bill with a number of legislators, and this is something that really bothered me. And I had to tell you that it was very impressive, because since I had this meeting, I have reached out to people to find out if what he said was accurate, and it was, according to legislature. So this bill was written in a way that it was kind of hurried, and it got passed on the last day of legislature in the last hour. What the governor wanted was a commission created, because at the time there were 4 trans kids in the state who wanted to play on other teams.
On the opposite
sex team. And many of you may be surprised, but out of those 4, 3 of them wanted to play on boys' teams.
So 3 of them were
Girls
transgender boys.
who wanted to play on boys' teams.
And what did they want to play? Did he mention
He
that?
didn't get into that.
Okay.
But he said, I want a commission that would have doctors a part of it, independent doctors, independent sports specialists, to look at the basics. One, is it safe for the person, for the child? Is it a sport that it would be safe? 2, if it's a boy wanting to play on a girl's team, what is their muscle mass? What is their bone density? What is their testosterone levels? Where, what exactly are we dealing with here on an individual basis, where still you're protecting the child's privacy, but at the same time, there's sports specialists evaluating, going, no way am I going to let this person play on my girls' volleyball team because he can spike a ball and probably give her a head injury, right? So this commission is what he wanted. It was not in that bill. So what they did, and at the same time, Idaho had passed this bill right across the board, making no transgender kids allowed in sports. Idaho was also being sued ridiculously. Now, the lawsuits were very hard on Idaho, which our legislators had put money aside in this bill to fight any lawsuits that may come up. But once they saw what was happening to Idaho, it freaked them out a bit. Some legislators went to the governor and asked him to veto the bill. They wanted a special session where they could rewrite the bill. This was not advertised, folks, at least not to me. Have you ever heard of this before?
I don't know.
I'd never heard of this before either. Cox got one hell of a bad rap for this. But he did veto the bill, and he called a special session. I do recall the special session. Got all those legislators back in the room, rewrote the bill, including the commission, and saying that it would be on a person-by-person basis, but as a whole, in the school districts, transgender children cannot play on the other sports. Immediately, a lawsuit was filed against Granite School District. And when that happened, a judge in that case decided to put a stay on this bill, on this law, meaning you can't enforce this law.
Was Granite enforcing this?
Yes.
Okay.
And let me tell you, you want a lawyer magnet, folks, make a bill like this in your state. Lawyers will move to your state just to find people to sue the state. And that's what's happening to Idaho. So the judge put a stay on that, but it did not include the commission that was part of it, which means even now, that idea of creating a private commission that would determine whether or not a lot of these were girls who wanted to play on boys' teams, which you didn't hear about that. 3 out of the 4 were girls who wanted to play boys' sports, girls who were trans to become male and wanted to play on boys' sports. This commission that is put together, a doctor could say, I'm sorry, if you want to play football, yeah, you could be the kicker. But if you get tackled, your injury potential is very, very high. And then sports specialists are saying, well, I don't think anyone would want you on the team because you are a high liability risk, whatever it was. But it was private, and it kept the trans child private, and these determinations were made by a commission. That special session was meant to fix the bill, at the governor's request. He did call it, and legislators agreed. Granite School District, still in that lawsuit, I believe, but the governor did, or the judge did put a stay on that. So that, for me, made me feel a little bit better. One, I don't want our state going bankrupt in order to fight a bill that even legislators thought needed work. They thought they fixed it. This commission is a great idea. It's still giving the trans child an opportunity to plead their case. And, some girls are built different, as we know. And some girls have been accused of being boys, and they are not, because they're built different. This commission was designed to help the trans kids and to figure out if it was safe for them or not, or the people they were competing against. That was information I didn't know. I brought up the fact that we've got, brought up the fact that what he said, another person actually felt disrespected by the way he treated delegates at convention. And I have a different perspective because I was in a different place at convention. I was in the green room. I got to see Deidre come in. She had her nieces with her. I got to see people being ugly to her, saying words to her that were horrendous. By the time she got into the green room and met with the governor, she was afraid. At least I felt she was afraid. I'm not going to speak for her, but I could understand because she was treated terribly. Governor Cox did not defend that. He did not defend what he said. He said he was sorry. If he could change anything, he would take that back. He said he's a hypocrite because he wants to disagree better, but he is the worst when it comes to feeling pushed. And he also felt as if he got pushed and he responded, and he's embarrassed by that. So he took that right on. He didn't even try to defend it. He said, I was embarrassed for my behavior. I should have never behaved that way, which brought me to my question. What is your engagement going to be like in the party? You wrote a letter to Donald Trump after the assassination attempt. It sounded sincere to me. A lot of people questioned it. I want to know, are you supporting Donald Trump, for one? And are you supporting the state party and the delegates in this party? And he said, I absolutely am supporting Donald Trump. He's meeting with Donald Trump next week. Donald Trump appreciated the letter. It did get to him. He was responded to. He is endorsing Donald Trump. Of course, he knows that people treat him terribly. You should see his Twitter when he came out with that letter. The left wing, the people who are so supportive and loving, those people came out with pitchforks. And so he is absolutely not winning any favor, if you will. I asked him about his involvement in rural Utah. Yes, our county voted for him. A lot of the rural counties did not. I asked him what his plan was, and he said he needs to be there, and he needs to be meeting with those people in rural Utah to win their support. That wasn't my issue. One of my issues was the pronoun video. Another thing I didn't know. Tucker Carlson went after him really hard on that, given his pronouns. He mentioned the fact that that video was edited and cut and dropped a year after that meeting happened. And that meeting happened with him on Zoom because he was talking to high school kids. And one of the kids in the audience was talking about something very, very sad about the LGBT community. And does he support them? And he said, of course I support them. We're all brothers and sisters, right? And I back them. I don't have to agree, but I want to support them. She then said, that she had a friend that was suicidal, and he had a lot of compassion for her because he could tell that he wasn't sure, but he was worried that maybe she was saying a friend of mine and meaning herself. And he said it was a very fragile moment. And she's like, she then gave him her pronouns, and he's like, he thought it would be funny, like a comedic relief. And he said, well, my pronouns are he, him, I'm Governor Cox. Then the video was edited. A year later, it was brought out to smear him, and it went viral. He still to this day doesn't know who edited it, doesn't know who put it out there. That video, that Zoom call, I saw the Zoom call when it happened. It was right after or during COVID, and he's either just became the governor or was still lieutenant governor at the time. It was because I was on a lot of these Zoom call meetings regarding masking and counties and what the health department was saying. And he was over that task force. So he was meeting with schools and things like that. So I think he might have been the governor at this point. And we were coming out of the COVID time because there was a big room full of kids. So I had seen it. That didn't bother me. The pronouns thing never bothered me because in context, if a kid asked me what mine were, I would tell them. I'm not going to be a jerk and be like, well, pronouns are stupid. No, I am a woman. I dress like a woman. I look like a woman, and I am a woman, and my pronouns are she, her. That could be cut right now and used against me in a year, and it could go viral because I said that. So that is what I was really, that one didn't bother me as much as a lot of other people. The next thing, let's get into this Phil Lyman thing, folks, because a lot of you guys are, or some of you are mentioning him, and I'm not reading your comments because I'm trying to focus, but we'll get to them. I asked him about the signatures and about the question regarding the signatures. Why is there a question? Have they been investigated? And it got us into voter integrity or election integrity, which then he then said that it was Tooele County clerk, the Tooele County clerks who discovered the issue. We discussed this before and alerted Lieutenant Governor Henderson immediately. Her office was alerted as soon as Tracy found the problem in the system. Even though it was a small little problem, Tracy wasn't going to let that slide.
Shout out to Tracy Shaw.
Tracy Shaw got a ton of praise at the meeting I was in. And you know what Tracy and I both didn't know is that the lieutenant governor was on her vacation with her family on a cruise ship when she got the information. And the fact that they reacted at midnight on the same night that they got that information, balls were rolling, everything was stopped on the recount, all the clerks were informed, and they got to work figuring out what the issue was, and they did figure it out quite quickly and handled it very quickly. Now on the signatures and the ballots, no lieutenant governor ever touches a ballot. They never touch it. That's not their job. He said he had no plans to appoint anybody. That was brought up. He's not trying to appoint school board members. He's not trying to appoint any AGs, nothing like that. It's a bad idea. Some states do it. He thought maybe if they appointed a person, then it would get it out of their hands and they wouldn't be accused of anything. But he said, no, I realize it needs to be as localized as possible, but only the county clerks run your elections. So on voter night, on voting night, get to your county clerk's office and watch them count ballots. If you care about your ballots, go and do it, and go make sure your county clerk sees you there and allows you to be there, because it is the county clerks that control the ballots in their county, not the lieutenant governor's office. They set the standards. So getting back to the signatures with Lyman, when that was all called out, all the signatures went to one county, and that's Davis County, to be reviewed, to go over every signature that Governor Cox got. There is something that if you are a registered voter and you have marked that you want to be a private voter, which is highly common for teachers, police officers, people who work in government, bureaucrats, for example, they don't want it advertised what party they vote for because it may affect their job and it may affect their reputation or whatever. And you all have that right. So with that in mind, the private ballots, people who are private voters, those names could not be verified, or only the county clerk could do that. That is not up to the governor. It was all up to the Davis County clerk, and all props to him because he did spend a lot of time. That's a lot of signatures. And the private ones are not available to the public, even the candidates. So if they were a private registered person, Republican, the clerk can verify they are registered Republican, but the candidates were not given that, from what I understand. And anyone has any questions, reach out to your local county clerk. If you're in Tooele County, reach out to Tracy Shaw. She's an open book. She can explain all of this to you far better than me. I do not go down that route. Now we have a number of people who are trying to do a write-in campaign for Phil Lyman. Well, the state party has already said, no, we are not supporting that. That is crazy. That is the greatest way to get us a Democrat governor. So if you're going to take Governor Cox's votes away and give it a write-in to a challenger like Lyman, who lost in the primary when the public had the right to vote. And I'm telling you right now, I believe in the delegates and I trust delegates. And I know that delegates do far more research maybe than the public. But when what the governor said, and I've said this before at convention, I did not like it that he called anyone extremist. That wasn't, but he doesn't like it either. He's sorry he said it. But he wasn't wrong when he said he was booed, past governor was booed, and past senator was booed, and they won handedly in the primary. So we have a disconnect there. I told him the disconnect was that he's not going out to rural Utah, and then he needs to come out to our county as well as all the other small counties where he lost. He won here, but he lost in rural Utah. We went over that when we went through the ballots or through the end results. He absolutely agreed, and he would like to be out in every single county and plans to have meetings like this in all these small towns, because what is misunderstood is that a lot of people appreciate what the governor has done, whether it's small businesses, not the federal government, but it's small businesses, local electeds, when it deals with UDOT, when it deals with growth in their counties, lots of different things the governor has done that people like him. And they were afraid to mention they liked him because they had delegates knocking on their door telling him he's terrible. And a lot of delegates thought he was terrible. And some of them never even got to meet him or talk to him, which was his fault. It wasn't the party's fault. We tried. And he admitted that. So I couldn't be mad at him for too long, because here I'm ready to fight him because he's not coming out to the county. But he said, you're right. I should have been out to the county with the party. I asked him, are you prepared to support the party? Are you prepared to work with the county parties and the state party so that we have a cohesive relationship with the governor? Because Deidre Henderson had come out many times at my request, meeting with the county party. So I know, and she would represent the governor in that aspect, but I wanted the governor here. And I think a lot of small towns want that. A lot of counties wanted that. He's the governor now, and they wanted him there in that moment. So what we figure is the state party is on board. He is doing this in conjunction with our state party chair, and like him or hate him, a vote for Lyman gets us closer to a Democratic candidate. The governor is going to win, but a vote for Lyman potentially is going to rip our party in half, or not half, sorry. 4,000 delegates, if they all were to write in Lyman, the governor will still win. The thing is, our party gets destroyed from the inside. And that's exactly how we get Democrats in office. And they loved this. They loved this. These issues were brought up. They were brought up last night. I haven't gotten that update yet. In fact, Chad, if you're watching, feel free to call in. I'll put you on. Tell us how your meeting went. Governor Cox made it absolutely clear on more than one occasion, and my question was, have you made it clear that we are not a sanctuary state, nor is Salt Lake City a sanctuary city? And he said, absolutely. He is the president of the Governors Association, folks. He's been voted to lead all 50 governors, not just him. Governor Herbert before him was the president of the Governors Association. They're listening to him. When Colorado's governor sent the migrants here, he had words with that governor, and he had governors from 6, I think he said 6, or there were 6 total, or 6 each, red states, blue states, to discuss the immigration issue and how it's going to be handled. And his conclusion was, we have to shut down the border. And got a lot of other governors on board with that same premise. because they can't keep sending these migrants elsewhere. There was a principal in there who her biggest gripe was that 30% of students, 20 to 30% in every classroom, students in her school do not speak English. Imagine your child trying to learn at school, and teachers are trying to teach your child, but they also have to teach a child that doesn't know English. And that got thrown into our school system, making that quite a dinger for principals, especially, and teachers.
And of course, we get taxed essentially per child in school.
Why don't we have Spanish-speaking teachers in Zoom format teaching these Spanish-speaking children English in their first years here to acclimate before throwing them in a classroom and setting our kids back because of the time and energy and efforts it takes to teach these kids when they don't understand the language? That is something the governor's been working on. I know legislators working on it. This is a big deal. And O'Malley, I know majority of Utahns are not LGBTQ. That's one comment I can read. But a majority of Utahns have someone in their family that is. And it's okay to love someone who is LGBTQ and still stand by your principles. The governor understands that. I think every single human understands that. We don't have to be enemies with people we disagree with morally or religiously or whatever it is. If we can bring everyone to the table, we are going to have a stronger state. Legislators, our majority are Republican. We could take more seats if we vote Republican down ticket. And I know you're not a Republican, and we are open to having other candidates on this show. But I'm telling you right now, he has to work with all of us, folks, because he's not just a Republican governor. He represents the state of Utah. And we do have Democrats in this state. Democrats who are in the Capitol and Democrats who are in education, lots of them in education. So I didn't go into a lot of the signatures because I can't stop SB 54. That is something your senators in our Capitol have to stop. Our House and our Senate has to repeal SB 54. Otherwise, all the players are going to play in that sandbox, including Democrats if they have to. And that's because SB 54 was wrong when it started, and it's still wrong now, in my opinion. But as bad as we fight and as much as we yell, and I have sat down with our representatives who are ready, and I asked them to run the bill. Let me see who is going to vote against it so we know who to get rid of. I need the Senate. The Senate has to pick up that bill. And I want to make sure that we absolutely get rid of that bill. But until we do, Lyman was gathering signatures, folks. He stopped. It was hard. It was a lot of work. And I'm telling you, a lot of candidates gather signatures. So did Colby Jenkins when he was on our show. He was gathering signatures and stopped.
Yeah, the SB 54, I think, is a huge issue for us because not only does it make it so that our delegates, okay, here's the split in the party right now. I see the split between the politically minded or politically educated, whether they're right or wrong or whatever, the politically educated and the masses. Because you get people who are motivated and politically educated, and they sign up to be delegates.
Yes.
They come to the meetings.
Well, they go to caucus.
They go to caucus. They get involved.
Where it all starts.
And then you've got the masses. So your delegates are going to be a small proportion. And then your average masses, right or wrong, they see their life on a surface level. And they're like, Cox, I know the name. I feel pretty comfortable right now in my state, so they go with the name they know.
Yeah.
Cox is going to have
they see or the newspaper.
Yeah, the governor is going to have an advantage on that because because the governor will have more money and more institutional power behind him. So when the time comes now, SB 54, what that did is that, I don't want to say allowed, but that made it so that Cox did not have to get involved on the molecular level in the state, which made it so that he could run around gathering signatures, where if there wasn't 54 there, he would have to be involved on the molecular level. And so that's one of the big splits in the party, or that's a split in every aspect of everything in the world. I mean,
it's true.
You have a small percentage that's educated. So we got to get rid of 54 if we want to keep the delegate system. If not.
But this brings me back to the state party, because the state party also has some responsibility here. We, county and state, we need larger caucus attendees. You are voted for by your neighbors, but that goes only so far when 20 neighbors show up. When you live in a neighborhood with 3,000 people in your precinct, that's how Count My Vote got through, because not everybody can make it on one night of the year. And when the state gets into it, and they tried very hard, and we are still trying to make sure that we can come into the 21st century with caucus to make it, because it's worth preserving. No delegate has a job. I have no job without caucus. We need delegates. We need those who are highly involved and engaged and are ready to learn and are willing to spend the time. We have people in our county that knocked on every door in their precinct to try to tell them how they were voting, inform their people, to just get feedback. And I have been majorly impressed by the hard work that the delegates did. I informed mine. I walked around my neighborhood. I've got a lot of Democrats in my neighborhood, and they love me anyway. But I don't go telling them how I'm going to vote, because I need to know what my Republican precinct wants. And I voted based on my precinct's wishes. But it took a lot of legwork to find out what that was. And I'm telling you guys right now, the 4,000 votes compared to 1.5 million potential Republicans in this state, the signature route makes sense if we don't have our caucus nailed down.
It really does. Because, well, it's not that it makes sense. It leaves an open avenue, and it's tough. I don't know
the answer.
What the answer is. Do you make it multiple nights? I don't know. And we're just going to have to, I don't know, it's something that's going to have to be figured out.
I think you could make it multiple nights, and then like a convention.
You definitely could.
Where people could show up, and then you run for this seat.
You could give it a week-long period where someone's a precinct chair, and that precinct chair meets with every registered Republican. So you have someone who volunteers, who has the ability to go door to door in their precinct, meet with everyone and say, hey, do you want to be a delegate? And here's the list of who were voting, just like you ran the precinct night, but they just do it in person. And then at the end of it, they maybe have a meeting. And it'd be nice if the party had money to throw at it, but you really don't have money to throw, like a hot dog party, or something like that. I don't know, but.
Well, you know what, like what you're saying on that same point, a lot of people become precinct chairs because they're chosen because no one else will do it. I've seen this so many times.
That was my dad.
Yet, that's the most important job. They're the governing body of our party in the county. And their job is to rally their people and their precinct and all of that. And it's a big job. And it's delegates' job is to go to all these meetings, and they're supposed to talk about, when they're running, who they're looking at, who they like, so that the people in the meeting go, yeah, no, I want someone who's going to vote for this person, or I at least want someone who's moderate, not too conservative, or whatever these discussions are. But what happens is that, even if a precinct chair decided, I'm going to take for caucus next year, I'm going to invite both my delegates, or all my delegates, state and county, to come knock on doors with me. If they want to run again, great. They tell people, look, I'm interested in running again. What are your thoughts? come to caucus and vote for me, or, just show up to caucus and run yourself. Find the people who are already engaged to knock on doors with you.
I think you should elect next year's or next election's precinct chair, vice chair, and like third runner up the election before, so that those guys have time to build up into it.
Well, and we're working on that. The
And
state
that
party.
way, if God forbid, the precinct chair, moves or something else, you've got a couple of people in there, and it's all about building that community. No matter what, if you build that community, this is all solved. But communities are dead now. It's a tough one. If I were to lay out an issue with politics with Cox right now, okay, and I wish he'd call on me, I'd go in and I'd say this. I'd say, look, you live in the city. I bet everyone in your staff is urban. Everyone in there is kind of progressive Republican minded. Everyone, they may call themselves conservative, but they're urban minded Republicans, which to me is a progressive. They cringe when they hear guns, and those are the people who run for those jobs and seek them out, and they're all college educated. So he probably doesn't have, I'll bet he doesn't have one non-degree holder on his staff.
Chemtrails. Sorry,
Yeah.
it just came to me.
I'll bet he does not have one non-college degree person on his staff. I'll bet he doesn't have one. There's a lapse, right? I'll bet he doesn't have.
I wouldn't take that bet.
I would in a heartbeat.
On his staff?
I'll bet they're all of them, at least working on a political science, working towards a legal degree. I'll bet almost all of them.
On what staff? On his campaign staff or on his
staff? Gubernatorial staff?
I don't know. I don't know that for sure.
If he has one person that doesn't have a college degree, it's because they're an intern getting ready to go pursue it next year. But he doesn't have a factory worker. None of that. He doesn't have that on his, so he doesn't have that outlook. He's surrounded himself, and I'm not saying he surrounded himself by the people who naturally are drawn to that are going to be people who are drawn to that because they're going to college amongst other people who are drawn to that type of job. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so he needs to seek out and pull in a couple of average people, maybe once in a while. Okay. 2, all of his mindset, all the information pumped to him are going to be information that are coming from Salt Lake City.
No, that's not true.
Telling you, that's what's going to happen.
He meets with his Senate majority. He meets with his House. Every single one of those issues that are coming to him are coming from those people. Bridger Bollinger has conversations with governor regarding issues in Tooele County. So does Tim regarding issues here.
I'm telling you,
they look to the legislature.
The information coming to him is all urban. It's all, and it just, he needs to get a broader, and I'm not saying he's wrong for this. It's just natural that that's what would happen. That's where he lives. That's where he swims. He's a fish in those waters.
Well, he lives in the governor's mansion, but his house is down in San Pete.
Okay, sure. And, and so and I'm not really faulting him for this. It's just the way it would be in nature. Just like me.
States too, yeah.
In every state.
Yeah.
Just like me, I don't have a lot of information coming to me from urban people. I have a rather rural outlook on life. That's just how it is.
So for those of you, here's what I'm getting at. And as a Republican chair, my job is to represent the Republican nominee who was chosen in the primary by the people and the public, especially the majority in my county. And that is my job, is to make sure that we get down ticket every Republican elected I can. Love me or hate me. I really, that is something that is literally my job. Precinct chair's job is to rally their precinct so that we don't lose seats to the other side, because it is that important. SB 54 is the reason we can't just say convention winners are the winners, the end.
Let me catch
You
up.
end SB 54, then we get to do that. I got to represent Phil Lyman, call him our nominee. Trent Staggs, I got to call him our nominee because of convention until the primary. There are 76,000 people in my county, and half of them are Republican, and the majority of them voted for Governor Cox. And I don't want those people to feel like they have to be afraid to be supporting the governor.
100%.
That's not fair.
We've got to allow people their liberty of who they support. But I want to catch up with Fred. You misunderstand me. I said all may be college educated. Most are good people. Average people get butthurt too easily. You misunderstood me 100%. I never once said because they're college educated, they're bad people. But the outlook of a blue collar person versus your college educated person versus your controller class that has been built up.
No, I think blue collar is perfect. I think that kind of symbolizes what you mean.
I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm saying they're two different perspectives, and you need to be able to absorb them both to get a good outlook on the whole population that you are governing over. You can't just get the outlook of one group and govern everyone justly. Period. That's all I'm saying.
And right now there's a push to do a write-in campaign. The state party is against that, of course.
Well, because it'll split.
It splits the party.
That's exactly how, the Bull Moose Party is how, what the heck's his name?
The alternative is a Gavin Newsom type governor, which would be, you guys think that Governor Cox is too left for you. Wait till you get a Democrat governor in Utah. Wait till Utah, one of the reddest states in the union, at least it used to be, is absolutely blue. Well, and that goes down ticket as well, folks.
It split the party in what was it, 1909, whatever, and that's how you got Woodrow Wilson. And we'll talk about a guy who's done more damage than any other president. I mean, he's the guy who gave us the Federal Reserve. He's the guy who gave us
absolutely.
He gave us the Federal Reserve
and demoralized people.
Yeah, he set back race relations forever because the African Americans had been kind of awarded equalism, and he knocked it down.
Yeah, he did.
But that's because
and the FDR just rubbed the dirt in the whole wound.
And that's because Teddy Roosevelt was angry at who was his vice president, who was the current president, and ran against him. But I'm not telling you, if you want to vote for Lyman, I'm telling you vote for Lyman, because I'm not now Holly can't say that, because to me,
it hurts my party.
It hurts your party. But to me, I want everybody to vote their conscience. I want them, because I'm going to vote mine and probably stay home.
No, I need you to go vote for Trump. Please. Here's the worry, you guys. I vote how you want. No one's going to be in that booth with you. Vote however you want. But I would much rather have an open conduit to the governor of the state who is working with the party, who is committed to working with the party, who is committed to supporting our presidential nominee, where he didn't in the past. And he is trying to do better. At the same time, he's gotten rid of DEI. He wanted to get rid of it early on, but we had legislators fighting over that too, because DEI meant something to someone and something to someone else. He's met with all the universities. He's trying to get all of that out. And that was an issue that was brought up into his face or Wednesday. And he was upfront with it. He talked about he talked about a lot of meetings he'd had with, and it's mostly colleges because they're the ones with the DEI, divisions and departments. And he's like, no more. That's not happening anymore. It's happening at BYU, a private school. And for those of you who have that faith, that's got to be very upsetting because that school is founded on Christian principles that are very, very important to the people who believe in them. And a lot of people aspire to send their children there because they think that college is going to instill those same principles and keep them there. To have DEI departments in BYU in a private school is outrageous.
Every person that has gone through BYU and then become a professor there all went through the same systems that's been making our teachers what they are.
And that is something that Cox wanted to
and I'm not even
really reiterate, was that DEI has ruined even private schools because those professors are still bringing that same stuff to your kid, regardless if you're in a private religious school or if you're in a public University of Utah. It has to stop. We have to go merit-based. We have to show kids that they can be whoever they want to be, and that they don't have to put themselves in these boxes and these labels like we've discussed in the past, and that they're there for the education, for the career they want. They shouldn't be bogged down with things like this that make them separate from their family, separate from their values they were raised with. Help, find yourself in college, and maybe you get a new interpretation and something that feels right for you, and you change the ideals that your parents raised you with, and you get your own. Great. Come up with that on your own, though. That learning to think for yourself should be the number one thing you're learning in college, and have challenges by your professors that aren't cloaked in agenda. And that is something that I asked of him, and he was adamant about that. And he is someone who is LDS. So, his issue, that is something that he thought was hurting kids worse with the DEI stuff. And because equity is not the same as equality. And that is what is being left out every day, folks. Everyone deserves equality. Everyone. Equity, not so much, because we're all individuals. And what he's going to do is work 10 times harder than I am at learning how to do something that I'm not interested in. But we both shouldn't make the same. If I do the same job, he's working 10 times harder. That's equality, means we can do the same job. But outcome should be determined on your ability to work hard for that job and to earn that merit by merit. That's what it should be about, is merit. That was brought up last night. So many things, or Wednesday, so many things were brought up, and he didn't have a ton of fans there. So I'm just telling you, he walked into the fire, folks. I have respect for that he's willing to. And then another meeting last night, and I know the people he met with last night, some of them are really not big fans. But they brought their anger, and they didn't do it in a disrespectful tone. What they did is they sat down in a meeting, and this is how I looked at it. If he's going to sit down with me and hear what I have a problem with, then I'm going to certainly listen to him. And if we can get on a page where we can politically speak with people, just the same as I would sit here with a Democrat and I would try to figure out, what do we have in common? Tell me where we can agree, and then where we disagree. And let's see if we can walk away better people for it. What can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? And how can we be better? Because this is a thing that politics is a rotten discussion, because they want us to hate each other, folks. It gives the government so much more power. And what's better? They want you to hate people from your own party. Now, and hate might be a strong word, but they want you to have disdain for people in your own party who agree with you 80% on the issues, or on most issues. And because you have a differing opinion of a candidate, now you're split. And now it's to hell with this and to hell with you. And that is what ruins us. We are a house divided will fall. That is how it is. We have to find common ground. He is the incumbent. He won the primary. He has the backing. He's going to win this election. And I'm going to work damn hard to see that he does. Because he's a Republican choice of the 45,000 people in my county, however many, that voted for him. And the state party has that same issue. He won the state. He is the state party's candidate. And we have to keep our Republicans elected. And that goes from Trump all the way to the top, all the way down ticket. I was endorsing Trent Staggs proudly. Trent is my friend. He was our kickoff show. We did our first show with Trent as our guest. He came and was a guest of the parties at the national convention. When he became when the delegates chose him, I was able to endorse him proudly. But he lost in the primary. And now I'm going to work extremely hard to make sure that John Curtis wins. Because John Curtis is considered the most conservative legislator in Congress, according to certain Heritage. I think it was the Heritage Foundation. When we read that, we were shocked. We were shocked.
I know. And Thomas Massey's sitting there like.
And he's on the climate change caucus, which you guys, we need one of our people on that caucus because he convinced a bunch of Democrats that guess what? You cannot have your windmills and your solar panels without petroleum and oil and gas. And if you don't find a way to engage climate or oil and gas into our future, we have no future.
I also want to bring up at the convention, Deidre Henderson had her nieces there. I don't know how old they were. If they were underage, she shouldn't have had them there because it's contentious. Politics is a blood sport.
I used to bring my kids to convention.
But it's contentious. If you're an elected official like that, it's a blood sport. And I don't think if people are throwing words at you, you volunteered for that job. You volunteered to be the shit catcher's man.
Sure. But
and so don't get mad about it.
Be an issue. She was in fear for her safety.
Was it legitimate?
Well, UHP thought it was.
Okay.
And that's the thing. UHP thought it was, and they thought it was safer to keep the governor safe. And here's what I'm going to tell you right now, and this was brought up last night by Brad Pratt, which I appreciated, is the conventions are a public event here in the state. So the public could have been in there angry. I'm not even saying the delegates did it to her, but I know someone not only threatened her, but said horrible things to her to the point where law enforcement had to watch out for her and protect her because when she came through the green room, she had law enforcement with her.
Did you witness anything?
Oh, only just when I walked behind her.
Like, did you witness people
physically
threatening her?
Well, I heard some horrible names and horrible, disgusting words that I wouldn't use. I don't use and I don't like, and I don't even like to hear them said.
So Fred says the way it is, the people who avoid caucus make their voice heard at the polls. It's easier, legal, and honorable. They just don't like the system. I guess the question is, and that's fine.
And I have to say, Fred is somebody highly engaged with the party.
He is.
And in caucus and in everything.
If you're going to have the polls in this caucus separated, then do away with the caucus and let the Republican Party focus all their money and efforts to commercials.
And I would rather do away with the signatures and focus.
But I'm just saying
on building a better caucus that represents more people in the state.
You're breaking politics further monetarily if you have both ways. Focus on one or the other. It's as simple as that. And you guys pick however you want to do it. I'll support you. I'll cheerlead for you. I'll get me some pom-poms.
I want all of you
and a
that
skirt.
Are upset to contact your senator. Contact your senator and tell them you want them to run a bill to eliminate SB 54. And then I want you to understand too, you're welcome to go to SEC meetings too, but get to know your state party leadership because they're with you. They would like to eliminate SB 54. And
I
what you
hear
don't
that a lot.
understand is that I was there back in the day when our party was going bankrupt fighting SB 54. It got all the way to the Supreme Court in our state and we lost. We lost. So does the party go bankrupt and have no money to support candidates to get the vote out, whatever? Or do we know when we've lost and we try to improve our caucus? Because improving our caucus is our only hope to actually know what our neighbors really think, unless you're willing to walk and knock on the door of every registered Republican in your precinct as a delegate and get their opinion. Because I was shocked at some of mine. I was shocked.
The turnout on the election or what came out of it, the results, they kind of shocked me too. I mean, I don't know if I was expecting Lyman and Cox. I knew that was going to be a tough race. Historically, it had been, but I thought for sure Staggs was going to bring it home because he carried all the momentum.
It felt like it.
But he carried all the momentum amongst an amplified political class, a group of people who had a certain feeling about the direction of stuff. And I thought he was going to make it for sure. And he did not. I know Celeste Malloy and Colby Jenkins. That was another one. I thought that could have gone either way. I didn't carry support for either of them. One, not a Republican, not a Democrat either. I'm one of them kooky independents because there is no box to tick for, I think government is the anti-Midas of the world, and it's going to be the thing that destroys us all. But, you know, there's not a box for that to check when I get my driver's license.
Look, I love the delegates so much. They are the people that show up. They are the people who do the work. I love the candidates who engage with the delegates and actually make the time, and they travel around this state and they try really, really hard to get in front of everybody. Celeste and Colby, they had to have a recount, and it was during that recount that the glitch was discovered in the software. And without that recount, we would have never known. And because of that recount, our election is going to be way better for the general. And it was our clerk that discovered it.
Oh, but and Fred, you said somewhere that Tracy is the smartest person in the county. You left out an R. She is the smartest person in the country.
Tracy's amazing. Missed
that. Tracy is, for anyone who's outside of the county listening, Tracy is of impeccable character. She literally impeccable character.
Absolutely.
If you met her and talked to her, you would know it just talking to her. She just carries that level of character, and her husband as well. They're an amazing family.
And I have to say, O'Malley, you're saying rhinos don't meet with anyone, win votes via signature. Again, you're back to SB 54.
Got to get rid of that.
We have to get rid of it.
Or get rid of the caucus.
And I don't want to get rid of the caucus.
I know you don't want to, but I don't think you can have both.
No. We need to know which senators will run the bill and which senators won't. That'll tell us a lot. And then once we know which senators won't, then we know which senators to replace. And that's how it starts. We need a grassroots movement to make sure. I mean, Phil Lyman is currently serving. Has he run a bill at the House to eliminate SB 54? And if he has, because I know many of our House reps have, how many times have they gotten senators on board? Why is the Senate so against SB 54? because they have an argument that says the pattern you're seeing is that the delegates vote one way, but the public votes an absolute another way. And until we can figure out how to get enough people interested in going to caucus and participating, and I'm not talking about just the diehards, I want the people who just want to show up to a community meeting and pick someone and tell them their ideas on what they want in a candidate, because that's how it should be. You should never go into caucus with, oh, I hate the governor, so I'm going to run as a delegate to get rid of him, because you may not be representing what your caucus wants, what your precinct wants. You could be in a precinct where everybody loves the governor but you. And if you're not having conversations in your community, and if only 20 people show up, how is that a fair representation of your community? SB 54 happened because there was a gap, folks, and Count My Vote filled it. And what I witnessed was that at that convention was that the very, very good candidates who deserved a shot probably should have gotten signatures. I hate to say that.
That's rough to say.
But in a game like that, how do they win with the only going caucus only going delegate only, not getting signatures? And how do they compete without the money that is getting thrown at those who did get signatures? Because they're guaranteed on the ballot. That means they're a guarantee as far as getting recognition right out of the gate.
Who did we have that didn't get signatures? Now I don't think
Celeste Malloy did not.
Celeste did, and Colby didn't either, did he?
Colby started, yes, he got signatures.
He started. Oh, so
and
Celeste
then remember,
didn't?
he stopped. We asked him on the show twice. The first time he said yes, he's gathering signatures.
So Celeste
the
went
second
hard.
time he said he stopped.
Well, good on you, Celeste.
Celeste never did, and then Trent never did.
Oh, okay.
Which made it more of an amazing
story.
story.
O'Malley May says, or get rid of the parties altogether. Vote on it. O'Malley May, you're speaking to George Washington's heart. He warned us about this. George Washington, in his farewell address, warned us of a couple of things. Mm-hmm. He warned us about political parties and standing armies.
But the political parties and only having a two-party system, and the infighting that would come and the danger that would come from that. George Washington warned us. And the truth is, like, yeah.
They only had two parties when and it's funny. He was referring to the Whigs and what is now the Tories, but the monarchists. And the Whigs became the Republican Party. All of the early Republicans were Whigs. The Whig Party died, and then the Republican Party was born in Wisconsin.
Well,
it's very wild, but
it is, and
I like it. I think we should lean on the Constitution, and you guys want to hear radical takes? That's where I go with it. Lean on the Constitution. The Constitution says nowhere in there does it say an army. You can have National Guards and form a militia, but that wouldn't give the National Guard any federal control. It would be controlled by the governors, as it was up until
Norma mentioned somewhere in here, and I don't know where it was, but she said that it's better to vote for the person rather than the party. And I was an independent for years before I became a Republican. And when I was in college, I was even a Democrat. Well, for Clinton.
You mean while you were being indoctrinated?
Pretty much. And when I realized that I actually had a job and watched what was happening, I changed, and I was an independent. I like to vote on the right person for the job. But I didn't have the opportunity to go sit down with that person and meet him face to face, which I loved about the caucus system and all of that. And that's what was the way we used to have it before SB 54. SB 54 has been around, 12 years now, 10 years, something like that. Yeah. And it was a lot of money put behind it because the people of the state felt like a small group of people were determining who got on that ballot. So with the primary, and now you have to play in both fields now. We got caucus, and then we've got the signature gatherers. Now, whoever wins each gets to be on the primary ballot, giving all of their names for the public to vote on. That's still fair. You pick your favorite person that you like and you think is the best based on what you get in the primary, and you vote in the primary. We had a 30% turnout in our primary, people. Do you know what our percentage turnout is in Tooele County during a presidential election in the general? Take a guess.
No.
Almost 90%. 90% of our registered Republicans in this county show up and vote. Of our registered voters, excuse me, not just Republicans, registered voters, 90%. And that goes around the state. We have a huge voter turnout in this state. So with that in mind, just knowing that should have you thinking, well, that primary ballot is everything. If we're not knocking on doors to get our nominees elected after convention, and I mean every single one of us, and not only knocking on doors and saying, hey, this is the candidate who won at convention, here's why, join me, help me break up some of these houses and come knock on doors and tell Republicans about this, and then get out and vote in the primary, 90% in the general, 30-something% in the primary. That's how inactive people are. I don't even know what the Democrat turnout is.
I have no clue.
Do they have primaries? They just get told who their presidential nominee is going to be at convention.
Well, I don't know if out here they've got enough to have primary, but no, I think they do have a primary. No, I think they select who's running where they're at, because Nathaniel was selected by the party. I don't think he primaried into it.
Well, he probably didn't have a challenger.
Yeah, he didn't have a challenger. I mean,
and you only have to primary if there's a challenger.
All 8 Democrats in his county showed up.
But does that make sense? Do you guys understand where I'm coming from? Like, if 90% of registered Republicans showed up and voted in a primary, and they gave us the candidate that we chose at convention.
Well, imagine if they showed up at caucus.
Exactly.
I mean, just the caucus night, that'd solve it right there.
Absolutely.
Or even if 40% showed up at caucus. I went to my dad's precinct. It would
be so different.
There were 9 people
on a presidential
and
year.
I was one of those 9 to help my dad run technology
during a presidential year where we had the presidential polling. Like Fred said, we shouldn't have the presidential primary at the caucus. Well, that was a way to get more people to attend their caucus. And
that's true.
We had the technology and it got hacked. And we had the locations. We were prepared for large groups of people to show up in a presidential election year, and they just didn't. And we advertised. The advertising dollars alone would blow your mind on not just our county, but the state advertised. We did everything we could do to get people to show up to caucus, and they didn't show up. And then they didn't show up to the primary. You can't be mad at the signature gatherers for gathering signatures with the problem we're having with caucus. I really can't be mad at it.
Norma, you and me are in the same boat. I'm not a Democrat or Republican either. So I showed up to help Dad so that someone who knew how to run his phone could run his phone. But I gave a couple people asked me questions because I had interviewed a few of the candidates. They said, what's your feeling on it? And I took the opportunity not to tell them who I liked more. I said, this person comes and this is the message they're putting forward. And this is the message the other person's putting forward, which are messages mostly aligned. So after that, I mean, honestly, most of the messages across the board align in the Republicans. Most of them align in the Democrats. The Democrats are trying to go, Democrat Party as a whole, as I see it, are trying to go with they don't want to go hard on corporations per se, but they really have and it goes back to Jonathan Haidt's studies where they really feel bad for the outsiders, a care harm matrix that they've fallen into. And the Republicans see that the government is a problem, but I think that the government is the only tool that can fight the Democrats, making the government bigger to be a problem. Therefore, the Republicans, every time since Reagan, they have ran saying we're going to make the government smaller, and they've made it bigger. So they've only reinforced, they've only made more tools for the Democrat who gets in next time to use, and it's killing us. And I don't know. Honestly, I like Vivek Ramaswamy's message. That's our best chance.
I agree. And I really think that I think there's a way, there's an answer, but I think it doesn't happen until we have our governor, our legislators, and our state party all in the same room coming up with solutions that are going to benefit the voters of the state. And I don't care who the governor is. I don't care who the state party chairs are. I don't care about any of that. I just want to have enough people come into a room with the intent of having the best interest of the state at heart, and to have the loudest, not the loudest, but the majority of the state's voice heard. This is something that somebody said on Wednesday night, that Californians are given such a bad name, like they're treated terribly, like they're liberals coming to change the government here in Utah. And one lady said, "I'm from California. I don't feel like a liberal. I feel like a damn refugee. I have escaped a place that has been hell, and I came here, and I love the caucus system, and I worked hard in it, and I served my county, or I think her county party well." And she was very, very proud of her work. And now she's seeing these little tiny, death by 1,000 cuts, little liberal things here, little liberal things there. And a lot of people need to remember, governors don't get to make laws. Governors can veto bills.
Yeah, they're not supposed to make laws.
We have got to be in front of our senators and our House of Representative members if we want change.
The separation of powers, governors can say, no, you can't have that law, but governors are not supposed to. But governors do, in a roundabout way, call in legislatures and say, I really want you guys to work on this, which I would expect that to happen as long as it still filters through the legislators.
Yeah, because if you disagree with what your legislator just agreed to, then you run for the seat, or you find somebody better to run, and then you work your tail off to get them elected, because we need to stop this. The Senate and the House needs to be held accountable.
The main reason they broke it down like that is because your House of Commons or your representative is supposed to be easily reachable. Your senator, your House of Lords, is supposed to be reachable just a little harder. And your governor is supposed to be quite a bit harder to reach. And it's just a filter system to get your message, your voice heard.
It's true.
And that's the design of it. It's a republicanism, as it stands.
I just hope,
is everything okay?
I just got a kid locked out, and another kid probably asleep. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
I just hope that you're not going to blame your party chair or your state party chair for sitting down with the governor of this state to try to find resolve. And I mean, he doesn't have to do this. He's the incumbent. He won in the primary. He's going to win in the general, most likely. I mean, if statistics tell us anything, he's going to win in the general. But we've got bigger fish. We've got to get our president elected. We need our senators. We need our House of Representatives elected. We need to stand behind Celeste Malloy. She won even after the recount. So she's officially our nominee. She's
supposed to be coming on real soon.
Yeah.
She told me that.
She'll be on soon.
I have some questions. Now, I'm going to say this outright. I really like Celeste. I enjoy every time we've talked to her, I've enjoyed it.
Both candidates were amazing.
I liked Colby a lot too.
Yeah, both were amazing.
But I got to meet Celeste in person. She's just super easy to talk to.
She's the real deal.
I really like her. But And I'm not saying you guys have to like her or whatever else,
No.
but I still want to get a feel for what's going on. You know, she's there swimming in the blue water at the honey bucket, and I really want to know what's going on back there. But anyways, I want to say that Snoop Dogg, shout out to you. It's a pretty good wine.
Is there anything like he's the most corporate gangster I've ever seen? Is
Oh,
there
of
anything
course.
that doesn't have his name on it?
Of course, but it's pretty good wine. I kind of like it. 13.5%. Made in 2021. Cali Red. Bought at a gas station
No
in
kidding.
the free state of Idaho. Oh yeah. Fred says we should burn through comments and I should let you go because you got to go get a kid in the house. Fred says, oh, let's roll up and we'll roll through and see what some of the comments say. You guys, this is a split. Fred says nobody's more blue collar than me, but I communicate with staff up there because they are my friends. Getting involved doesn't require a college degree, nor does having a degree become a millionaire. Stone Lyman ran an ad for the Democrats, by the way. No, I agree with you. You're right. You can talk to them. I know I see my representatives around. They are great guys. I'm saying all those people surrounding Cox are probably great guys as well, and gals. They're probably all great people. Having a degree does not make you bad, but having a degree and being blue collar, especially in this current system that has been built since FDR, it's changed it. We're in a supervisor leadership class lately where
and experts know everything.
Then
it turns out that experts only know what their college taught them.
It's not just it's about all the spoils have gone towards one class right now. The blue collars have been kind of left behind on growth of the economic growth of the nation, and it shows. And it's been going on for a long time now, and I'm not blaming the degree class for this happening. It's been a push that's been going on kind of naturally. It's starting to taper off. I think it's going to taper off one way or another. If you read Peter Church and he explains it, we're getting to where we're saturating with degrees. So there's hopefully not going to be a conflict to solve it, but we're going to have elite overproduction, and that's going to be, historically, that's always caused a civil war.
We need to take our colleges back, and critical thinking, absolutely, Norma, should be taught at home. But I also think that it's almost stronger when it's taught to your child at home, and then it's encouraged in school and in education. Yeah. And we are a community, a society that has leaned on experts so much, and I want to say, thrown away our own hunches, our own gut feeling to trust experts, and we saw where that got us. Well, there's
a lot of that. I think that, again, I'm going to say this every time. 10th Amendment would have solved all that. We need to lean on the 10th Amendment. We need to force the 10th Amendment on our federal government. We just need to.
One more thing about Cox, I just wanted to say that also got brought up. His thing was, and Deidre talked to, don't get me wrong, she was really great in explaining elections and a lot of this list stuff and all of that. But he said, my goal isn't to try to tell a county how to run. My goal is to have the county tell us what they need. The counties, he would rather have the power be in the most local level. And that hit different, because that's something we say all the time.
That's
the more
great.
Local, the better.
Then here's what you do is you make it so that you have a monthly or quarterly meeting with the county council, with the different mayors, and you call the leadership of that county in, and you have a sit down and hear them out.
And the governor does that with our electeds. He just doesn't do it through the party, and that's what I want changed. I don't want it through the party,
because there's other. You got Salt Lake County that also needs his attention, and the Republican Party. There isn't one in Salt Lake County except for O'Malley May. She stands
It's
alone
only
in
the
there.
biggest party in the whole state. Run by Chris Knoll, a fantastic chair, I might add.
Sure. And all the electeds are Democrats in Salt Lake.
But what I'm saying is he's meeting with them already. They're up
Okay,
there.
good. That's what I'm saying.
But he needs to get down south, and he needs to get to
Yes,
these
he
small
needs to
counties.
meet with every county's elected officials, and regardless of party, regardless of flavor, and say, what can the governor's office do to help out your county? What can I push? What can I, who, do I need to grease a palm for you? What do I got to do? Fred says Celeste might be in real trouble next time. I would, who would she be in? Is there something coming up? I don't,
I'd love
Celeste
to see it
has
under
made
Trump.
Celeste had voted, and we called her to the mat on. She came I like this about Celeste. When she voted for that, what was it, 702 or whatever, that
The FISA bill.
the FISA bill,
and the spending bill.
I text messaged her the next day. She called me back about an hour and a half later. And I said, will you come on the show? And she came on the show and justified it. Do I like her justification? Not at all.
That was the second time. Remember, we were at KMMU, which we'd like
Yep.
to thank and bring up right now.
Yeah, KMMU. Go check them out. Main Street Media, Utah. Lots of shows. We talked about food earlier. They've got a whole show dedicated to food, the Wellness Crusaders.
But that night, right after the spending bill, you and I were together, and I texted her. And the next day she was on our show. She
gets right back to us. If she's in town, she comes on in person. If not, she'll Zoom in. I like that about her because she knows she made a bill. And we told her, we're unhappy with you. And she said, oh, come on. And she came on and she took the grilling and she took me talking my crazy anarchist stuff. And she ate it and chewed on it. And she said, this is why I did it. Whether I don't agree with her, but she took it. And I think that was a stand-up act.
And Fred, actually, I think a lot of our reps, I'm hoping, I would like to see a House of Representatives run under President Trump. I would like to see us have the majority in the House and the Senate, my dream. But I would like to see what comes through. I think you can really, my whole goal is to see which Republicans actually are going to stand strong against him when it comes to large spending bills, because Trump's not an angel at spending. He also spent money.
Spent more than all the rest.
But then I also want to see who stands behind him on policy, good policy, end of restriction, and maybe lessening government power. And I think that's going to be a real test. I think that either way, I mean, sadly, our House of Representative members are always running for office. They get 1 year maybe where they get to do their job, and the next year they are back to campaigning. 2 years.
It makes me wonder if putting term limits on them would manage that, or would we lose something? I don't know. There's Thomas Sowell is the second smartest person in the country behind Tracy. But he says there are no fixes. There's only trade-offs. And that's what I wonder. What would the trade-off be on that? And that's what I try to think about.
That's a really good point about life in general.
Yeah.
We have trade-offs every single day. And
if you guys don't know who Thomas Sowell is, you guys better look him up. Everyone, matter of fact, BYU, Taylor Swift, her class should be dropped yesterday, and you should do a full degree just on Thomas Sowell.
Okay, so Quentin says Cox stole the primary. And I think you're referring to the signatures. And don't get me wrong, folks. I have no problem with them being a question about the signatures. I have no problem with Lyman questioning that. I think investigation, if that's what he thinks is needed, is great. I think it's very dangerous, though. Not just for the election, but for Lyman's career. I think it's dangerous to try to separate our party like this is doing. I don't think, I would never, ever want a candidate to be like, oh yeah, let's divide everybody, do a write-in, and then boom, we get a Democrat governor, and now we can't get back from that. That'd be hard to do. But in the meantime, if he needs an investigation, let it do it. It's the Davis County clerk, and you either trust your clerks or you don't. And if you don't, then you need to replace them
Elected
in elections.
It's an elected officer as well.
Okay, Norma said
Well,
tired of stupid government rules imposed.
100%. Norma, we're going to high five when I see you soon. I got to come look at that wall in your house. Okay, so
Fred,
what would we be looking at if we got a Democrat governor? I wonder how that'd shake out, because most of our representatives in our Senate is Republican. What would we get?
we could get
would we get
DEI back.
Would we get? See, there's an argument. Mencius Moldbug.
Sanctuary city. That's something that could be said quite easily by governors and has been without legislators.
I don't not. It hasn't been done where the legislature is opposing that. It hasn't been done. It's only been done where the legislature's positive towards that. But Mencius Moldbug, he argues for strength from weakness, and like he argued this before the what was the Roe versus Wade knockdown?
No, but you're bringing up history.
No, this isn't history. This is a current political philosopher. But he says when your party is weak, the people in party that can make decisions make them more strongly. It's kind of how he argues. So I wonder what that would look like. I'm not being pro towards it. I just wonder. It's just
Governors can raise money. They can raise money fast, and they can also
process. I'm running through.
I'm telling you, they can raise money fast, and governors can raise money down ticket.
It's called Dobbs. The Dobbs decision probably would not have happened had Trump been, however you put it, become president. What I'm saying is,
if Utah got a Utah governor, it wouldn't take long for down ticket to turn blue also.
Oh, you think Tooele would turn blue just because we had a blue governor?
Well, we were blue not even 2 decades ago.
Yeah, when the Blues were a wholly different party.
But what I'm saying is
actual different party. Like if they met each other, they would throw Molotov cocktails at each other.
Money can come in through status. And with money, as you can see, when you can pay for signatures and you don't have to go through caucus and all of that, and SB 54 doesn't go away, and you start getting people elected in counties or cities that would never probably have been, because people are not trusting their party. They're writing in candidates and stuff like that. I mean, it's a downward spiral. It's a downward spiral. And it goes both ways. If a Republican, there was a Republican governor in California, and they still spent a lot of money, and they couldn't get along or argued constantly with the Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, sure. And he's the very governor who said, what were the words he said? F your freedom?
Screw your freedom.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
go on. What? Okay.
That's it. We're at the bottom of it.
The frustration is palpable. We have our work cut out for us.
If we are going to preserve what we have. Thank you for all you do, Holly. Yes. Norma says, yes.
Thank you, Fred. That means
Thank you, Fred. Norma says, destroy the middle class to control the masses. Yeah, and destroy the middle class because there's sacrificial lamb whenever you have a lead up
and
to
yet the middle
collapse.
Class is the entire support of this country.
Govern the food, medical, and housing, outprice the general public. Corruption, right and left. That is spot on. You hit the bullseye right there. And Norma says, oh, are we Russia?
Okay, so I have to tell you. Yeah, my kid's okay.
All right.
So I saw a post today made in one of our groups that made me think of you quickly. And I was like, this is hilarious, because if I can't find it quickly, I'll just hurry and tell you. But he
made you think of me?
Yeah. And David.
Did you say, man, he says in there, I watched someone who can really dance when they're drunk on wine today.
You're not even that bad. I think wine's your drink, man. You can still.
It's a gentle wine. This is Snoop Dogg. Shout out. Some decent wine. I kind of bought it as a joke, and now I'm like, I could drink this stuff once in a while.
When were you in Idaho?
Dropping Katie's boy off up with his dad.
Well, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he says it's Chad Pritchard, who is a member of our party. And this was in Big Tent Republicans. I'm starting a citizens initiative to allow the following. Are you ready, David? If you are listening in the future, if it's future, David, then you're going to love this.
Yeah, I just saw kind of the beginning.
Privatization of state liquor stores. Number 2. Now, this one I had an issue with, but alcohol service starting at 18, with orders being able to be taken at 16, as long as the 16-year-old can't buy the liquor. I don't even like it. I mean, 18-year-olds.
I'm confused. Hold on.
So that a 16-year-old waiter at a restaurant can take your order.
Of course, yeah.
It's an order.
And alcohol service starting at 18. That means you can drink at 18?
You can drink at 18.
Dude, if you can be sent, if you can be drafted to go to a foreign country to spill your blood on their ground, you can have a glass of whiskey. That's period. And if not, we need to change the age of consent to join the military to 21. Yeah. That's it. Choose your path.
Yeah. Did you know they changed the age of smoking?
Yeah.
To 21?
Yeah, they changed it to 20. You can have it at 19. You can't purchase it until you're 21.
But that's crazy to me.
Seriously, Utah. You know what? Or infantilize it. Let's make a law that you're not at the age of majority until you're 38. And then you're too old for the military. No one from Utah is going to get drafted to go to Ukraine. Do it.
So, I mean, if it's going to be 21 for everything else, then maybe the military should be also.
Not just maybe. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it should be. Okay. So then he said High Point beer to be classified as beer and to be sold wherever beer can be sold.
Bingo. And wine. Let wine be sold there. Heck, you know what? Select liquors.
Okay. Number 4, I do agree with the state law on this. Last call for bars is 15 minutes before close, like every other state. The reason we do last call an hour before close is so that you have 1 hour to sober up before you drive home. And that, I think, is important, especially if, as someone who has tended bar, I know a certain customer, if I've sold them so many drinks
you can tell
within
them
so
no.
many hours,
Okay.
I know when to cut them off. And I also know that they're staying to the end of the event. Great. The last hour, they can't buy liquor from me. I know that last hour is going to cover that drink because it's every 2 ounces or something takes 1 hour to get out of your bloodstream. Number 5, mail delivery alcoholic beverages.
Yes.
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 And number 6,
I would be
home delivery available.
Yes. Let's do it.
I absolutely love this.
Let's have this cat come on the show. I want to chat with him.
Oh, I should get in touch with him. He's also a chef, and he's also he's a smart guy. But all of this,
all the things I am.
And
not.
I did mention to the governor, to bring it up again, the liquor issue. I did bring that up because we have the Olympics coming, and we also have to get ready with infrastructure. And infrastructure, what are the plans on that? A lot of private companies are coming in. Utah is one of the only places in the country, in a world, I should say, that has not only maintained our 2002 Olympic venues, but we've added more options for the Olympics. Most countries build those venues and then they get destroyed after, or they don't get used, or they don't get cared for. In Utah, we've maintained them, which made us a great opportunity, like a great option for the Olympics. And then we went through the whole build of I-15. That was a struggle. That was rough. We will see more roads going up because of the Olympics. Sorry, Summit County, because you're probably going to be getting the brunt of that. And we do mean we're sorry. That is hard. But it does bring, I believe it's billions to the state when the Olympics come.
Molly May says, and raise it back to 0.08, 0.05 is BS, and everyone knows it.
Yeah, that's also very fair.
You know what? I I don't know if I agree or disagree. I'm not a drinker and driver. I just
But if you were at dinner and you wanted to have
But
a
yeah.
wine with dinner, you're at
seriously.
0.5%.
Oh, easy.
So,
Well, I'm a big guy, so
and
it depends on the size of the glass, but
no state does that like us. We do
Yeah.
that.
it's crazy that I pro-religion guy. I think religion's great. I love it. I love being surrounded by religious people, but I do think I don't think you could legislate to save someone's soul.
I'm not sure. I'd like to see the numbers if DUIs have gone down since the 0.5%.
Oh, that's a
or
good question.
accidents have gone down. I'd like to see the numbers on that. Because most states it's 0.08. It used to be 0.10, like in Arizona and Nevada, and that's all gone down. But the idea of this absolutely makes sense to me. And I think the liquor laws in Utah were changed in 2002 when the Olympics were coming.
Yeah.
I think they didn't go far enough because we're adults.
And then they had that
and
weird
as
bounce
adults
back.
At 21, we should be able to make good decisions. And just like you wouldn't want someone driving high on something or taking too much cough syrup and getting behind the wheel, they should be just as smart to know I can't drink and drive. We can't, like you said, we can't govern someone's soul. And, you know, I don't love that the state is the only one who gets to profit off of liquor sales. And they charge venues, and venues have to charge way more.
All right, state, if you're going to profit off of them, let's not be one of the highest tax states in the dang union. Can we?
I have to do a huge shout out to Chad because I
want to bring him on the show. Matter of fact, we should have him on when I can get Dave on.
And I don't know if he's a drinker, by the way.
Good.
I have no idea. I just know he's a restaurant owner and he's probably getting into making beer.
It just sounds like the guy has a libertarian bent to him. He's what I like to call a yellow and black Republican. And I like it. I like the cut of that jib.
I do too.
Okay, guys, we're going to cut you loose. It's an exciting show.
It was really passionate. And thank you for all your
comments.
124 comments. And I do hope that you will still tune in the future shows, whether we agree or not. And I hope that you will, if you believe in a candidate and you believe in something, vote your conscience, do what you're going to do. Just know that, you know, elections have consequences. So just be prepared for whatever those might be, and get in touch with your Senate, get in touch with your House members, find out what their thoughts are in running that bill. Run the bill.
Everyone, just know, whatever you think, me and I probably don't agree, but I want you to have that freedom to think that and feel that and vote that. I want everyone to vote their heart, their conscience. And I want to be able to stay home and not vote mine. Someone's probably going to force me.
Slap you. You've got to vote for Donald Trump. We have to make it the outcome